Folks, we have made it to the last day of April. It's Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. This is Up North News Radio. No, it's not. Hey, it took till Wednesday at 6 o'clock to finally give the old title. Welcome to Mornings with PK. That'd be me. Clearly still waking up on this Wednesday morning, April 30th. Coming up, how is lead paint still a thing in Milwaukee public schools? We have some thoughts on that, and we'll talk about that in today's Homeroom segment. Also, power play for power lines. A new bill talks about when new power lines are built in Wisconsin, should it necessarily go to a Wisconsin company? Is that a good idea, or is that anti-competition? Oh, we'll talk about Trump's 100 days. We'll talk about American Family Field because a lot of its attractions are in our newsletter today. And Dan Schaefer, if you didn't hear him yesterday, we'll play that back at 6:30 this morning as part of our newly expanded 3-hour show. Sometimes we'll play our 8:30 guests at 6:30 and vice versa. So in case you missed it, we got it right back for you. All that and more starting at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. We'll see you soon.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Greg Bach, you amazing super producer. I know what you did. I saw that there. Thank you. You know what you did. I know what you did there. Good morning, everybody. I'll get to the regular show up in just a moment here. Greg knew that, when we picked the new music, and I kind of like this new little ditty, but I wasn't as crazy about the little bongos at the very front.
Oh.
And it was just a little tune. I don't play the bongos. But I don't mind the rest of the tune. And Greg, just out of nowhere, he starts the music without the bongos. It just goes right into it. And thank you for that.
When do I tell Pat that I did that last week?
That's so nice. Well,
oh yeah.
Maybe it was because this time I wasn't racing at 60 miles an hour to try to get everything done. I actually got my work done ahead of time.
The original version you heard on the day we switched over, which was 1 week ago today, yes, was also very loud.
It was, yes. So maybe see, honestly, what I was thinking just now was, oh, here come those bongos. I should tell Greg that we should start with the bongos, and then I'm just going to start talking right at the bongos and go, no, let's just get right into the show. And instead, there were no bongos. This was great. Shiju on YouTube. Happy Wednesday, Pat and Greg. Yes, it is. So wow. Now, I mean, do you have the music handy? Do you want to start it again or no?
I can do it if you'd like, yeah.
Just the first little bit so that we have all the stuff I wrote. I should really say it.
Oh, sure. Here.
Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay. Hey, good morning, Wisconsin. It's 6:06 on this Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. It's another beautiful morning to have you here up north. Live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network or on the Civic Media app or watching us on YouTube or Facebook. Catching us by podcast. Thanks for starting your day right here. And we really are starting it for real now. I got a question for you. How did we end up with a government so hostile to even the concept of immigrants that its only plan to address a labor shortage is to ask people to make more babies or to put off retirement from one of the most stressful jobs in the country? Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, is the latest in the Trump White House to hint at making retirement tougher, in this case for air traffic controllers, in order to address a shortage that has led to major delays. We'll have that coming up during this half hour. Also today, Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan is getting plenty of bipartisan, high-powered legal help in addressing her politically motivated address by President Trump's FBI. We'll ask the question, how is lead paint still a thing in Milwaukee schools? If you're not familiar with the issue of how lead paint is still poisoning children in Milwaukee schools, you can be forgiven for asking, really? So our guest from the Wisconsin Public Education Network has some background in this week's Homeroom segment. Melissa Baldauff has our climate check at 8:30. We'll get into the power play for power lines. A new bill raises this point. Should Wisconsin utilities get an advantage when it comes to new transmission line projects, or does that kind of an advantage stifle competitions? It's a question that does not cut neatly across party lines, which is kind of unusual, almost refreshing in state legislatures. We'll talk to Melissa about that. If you missed Dan Schaefer at his new time, Tuesdays at 8:30, fear not, we'll play parts of it back Wednesdays at 6:30, including his thoughts on if the Milwaukee Bucks were to be eliminated on Tuesday night. Spoiler alert. I'll get into that in a minute. And the media goes into hero worship mode for Donald Trump as he marks 100 days of mayhem. Here's the Wisconsin forecast from meteorologist Brittany Merlot. Another little system nudges into the state today. I love her way with words. But then we'll get a break in the rain by the weekend. So the forecast for today, sunny to start, clouds increasing later. Highs in the low to mid 60s statewide, a southeast wind at 10 miles an hour. For tonight, cloudy with areas of light rain, especially in the southeastern half of Wisconsin. Lows will be in the upper 30s up north, low 40s in the south with a southeast wind at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cue the part where Pat continues to grouse about morning temperatures in the 30s. Because here we go again. It's 33 here in Chippewa Falls, 34 in Hayward, 35 in Amory, 36 in Wausau, 37 in Rapids. La Crosse is at 41, Green Bay 36, Madison 39, and in the Milwaukee area right now, it is 37 degrees. If you'd like to join the program along the way here, 855-75-CIVIC. You can call or text that number. We'll see the texts here and maybe put those up on screen. Same goes for the comment sections in YouTube and Facebook. We see them here. Might pop them up on screen and respond to them. And, of course, you can always use that Civic Media app to call or text the show as well. If you didn't know before... Yes, you did. Greg Bach is standing by at Radio Park and Racine.
I'm sitting by, folks.
Yes, you are. But Shiju says, but cold mornings make fluffy, warm blankets the best.
Oh, my gosh. Can I just say something?
Well, yes.
The house was so warm the other day because it was like 80 degrees two nights ago.
Yeah.
So we opened the windows. We let the air in, and I turned the fan on, and when I woke up this morning, it was freezing cold, but I was like cuddled under my blankets. I'm like, this is the best morning ever.
Yeah, see? She's right. Yeah.
She was very right.
That's right. Let's see. It was a busy day yesterday for the Joint Finance Committee meeting in Wausau. Cassandra writes in, signed into the Joint Finance Committee meeting shortly after 9 o'clock yesterday morning. Finally spoke at 6:15 last evening. That's why, again, former legislator here. I wasn't on the Joint Finance Committee, but I went to meetings like these when they do the road show. They've done them in Eau Claire and other places. And I want the Joint Finance Committee out there. I want them out there on the road, listening to people, telling them why they want to do the things that they do.
Mm-hmm.
But this kind of a system where you register at 9 in the morning and you may not speak till 6 in the evening, I don't think is the right way to go about doing this anymore.
I think it's very, very strategic.
Yes, I believe it is too. So I think with the committee makeup this way, 12 Republicans and 4 Democrats, which, by the way, it shouldn't be 12 and 4. We have a legislature that's almost 50-50 now with new maps. But it's the Republicans who said, nope, we still want 12 and you get 4. So there. But if you accept that it's 12 and 4, then split the committee into 4 parts. And so that's 1 Democrat and 4 Republicans, and go into, get 4 different locations or 4 different rooms in the same location or whatever, and let more people give their input. People know that they're not going to get everything they want, but they want at least the opportunity to tell their elected officials how they would like this to go. And so Cassandra writes in, public school and special education were more than 50% of the requests that she heard. Childcare was the next highest. And like I was just saying, there's no guarantee the Republican legislators are going to listen to you when you say, please, sir, may I have some more for special education and public education and childcare? But you should at least get the opportunity to talk to your legislators. So now that's done. They've done their 4 hearings across the state. So I'm again going to share an email address with you. I don't know what's happening with my throat today. Am I turning into Robert Kennedy Jr.?
All right.
Anyway, here's that email address. If you'd like to comment on what you think should be in the next state budget, the email address is budget.comments@legis, Legis, .wisconsin.gov, budget.comments@legis.wisconsin.gov. And yes, they do get read, and yes, they do get talked about. So be sure to do that and have a little bit of input into the process. Our daily newsletter, you can get that over at our website, upnorthnewswi.com. And today, Christina Laurie puts in a lot about the Brewers and American Family Field. She talks about the first person to ever serve as Bernie Brewer. And the person who inspired the beloved mascot, it was a 69-year-old fan, Milt Mason, who decided to sit on top of the scoreboard until the team drew a home crowd of 40,000. He was there for 40 days until August 16th of 1970, when 44,387 fans showed up for a game against Cleveland. Mason was so excited, he slid down a rope from his perch, burning his hands and legs. But He was recognized as the original Bernie brewer. And then there's stories in here as well about concession prices, which I know are expensive everywhere. But she lists the league averages for things like hot dogs and beer.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll like this one. Beer per ounce. The price at American Family Field averages about 69 cents an ounce. But the range in the major leagues is anywhere from 33 cents an ounce to 99 cents an ounce, $1 an ounce for a beer.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah, you know. So anyway, she's got that and more notes about how great it is to go to a ball game there at American Family Field. So again, sign up for the newsletter at upnorthnews.wi.com. I just got a little distracted here because I believe Cassandra's got a couple of more things in here about being at the Joint Finance Committee. Oh, she says, at the time I spoke, I basically threw out my prepared words and simply said, the majority of people are telling you what we need and want. And then she says, OMG, I almost forgot, Brittany Kinzer testified, asking for an increase in special education funding. Well, good for her.
Yeah.
Brittany Kinzer coming off, losing the state superintendent race, but again, getting out there and saying to legislators, you should hike special education funding. So good on her for doing that.
And that was the thing when you interviewed her a couple months ago, a month and a half ago, or 30 years ago. That was the thing I really felt about her, was that she was very, very passionate about education and special education. And I think that's very important. Opinions about her running all aside, I felt like she at least has a mission, and that's good that she's sticking by those guns and then she is continuing to move forward on that.
Yes, very much so. Again, people can have genuine disagreements. And I think that she genuinely feels like the more that you can have, vouchers and private schools out there, that it's going to be better for all kids overall. I just happen to disagree. But we also agree on the notion that special education funding, across Wisconsin should be way, way better. And so for her to speak up like that at a Joint Finance Committee hearing, I hope that really sits well with some of the Republican legislators. I'm going to run out of time to talk about this, but we've put it off for a couple of different days here. Have you seen since Sunday's announcement who is going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Oh, yes. I have opinions.
Do you? Okay, so I want to tuck that in the back pocket.
Yep.
But I just want to share it because it's been in my notes and I keep forgetting to come back to it. So we'll come back to this later. But if you missed it, going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later this year, Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, Cyndi Lauper, Outkast, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes. And then both Salt and Peppa and Warren Zevon will be recognized with a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Musical Influence Award. The award concert, and that concert's huge. It's every year. It's November 8th on Disney Plus.
It's like 4 hours.
Yes. It's on Hulu November 9th, and then it'll be a condensed part of it will be on ABC probably sometime in late December around the holidays or so. Brewers beat the White Sox. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the Bucks, they were eliminated in maybe the dumbest way possible. So we'll talk about that as well, along with Dan Schaefer. But first, from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Secret Show, because you're worth it.
Secret Joe.
Yeah. Yep. No, the bongos didn't just play for the first day.
No, but I fixed it like the second, like when you gave me the note, I fixed it that day.
Is it permanent? I mean, would I have heard them yesterday? Like when
Nope.
Sam was on the board or something?
No, because I put the new the folder he has access to. I put the final. Well, what has been the final version thus far.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the bongos it's like a Mandela effect, man. They never existed. Oh.
Okay.
But yeah, when you gave me that note last week, I immediately went in and recut it because I had to bring Don up and I had to bring the music behind him down because it just was the levels were all, as my Jewish friends would say, fakakdad.
What's it? Fakaka?
Yeah.
Okay. Here, I thought I had such a clever idea, and here you went and you fixed that.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Adam,
5.
it was indeed the dumbest way to lose. Yes, so I'll do the details on sports, and then the Sean Duffy thing, and then if time allows, we'll do Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
All right, great. All right, sounds lovely.
Marvelous. Take a joke.
Secret Joe.
Wouldn't this be great to come into this and go, your Milwaukee Bucks are advancing in the playoffs on their way to world domination, rather than they lost in the dumbest way possible. And I don't take it just from me, Adam on YouTube. It was indeed the dumbest way to lose. Here's the deal. I had the game on for a while in the background. I saw that the Bucks were up 7 with 45 seconds left in regulation. And we had other things going on in our house to turn the TV off. I'm like, okay, there will be a game 6 or whatever. Bucks up 7, 45 seconds left. Imagine my surprise to look at my phone a few minutes later and see that they were in the late stages of overtime. But again, the Bucks were ahead by a margin where they should have been okay. But 2 turnovers in the last 30 seconds of overtime leads to Tyrese Halliburton blowing past Giannis for a go-ahead layup with 1.3 seconds left to close out an 8-0 run for the Pacers to send them on past the Bucks, eliminating the Bucks 119 to 118 for a 4-1 series victory. And I of course, I went back to the TV, turned it on. We've got a DVR so I could rewind things. I'm looking at that last 30 seconds. And I was just like, yeah, that's just typical, you know. Adam writes, if you haven't heard Giannis's interview after the game regarding the interaction, it was definitely worth a listen. That's because Halliburton's father kind of started a shoving match after the game. So, I mean, it was just a terribly ugly way to lose. And again, we're Bucks fans here. We wanted the Bucks to advance, but they got something. They got some kind of a mental block. Injuries don't help, of course. Dan Schaefer's going to talk a bit about this in 10 minutes.
I was on Twitter just out of nowhere. Like, I don't go on Twitter a whole lot anymore, but all of a sudden I just saw the tweets coming through. I'm like, oh, is the game almost over? I'm like, oh no, they lost. And Dan tweeted, no words. I go, please find some by Friday. But I think it was Tony 2 days ago, or maybe it was last week, who said it best. Bucks in 26.
Yes, Bucks in 26. It ain't happening in 25. That's for sure.
I think Doc Rivers got to go.
And
he's not an effective coach.
No, and we're not the only ones who think so. Again, Dan Schaefer on in 10 minutes. The Brewers back in action in Chicago. They beat the lowly White Sox 7-2. The Brewers have now won 11 of their last 12 games against the White Sox. Would that the Bucks could have that kind of record against the Pacers. Anyway, Isaac Collins hit his first career home run for the Brewers. Freddie Peralta pitched 6 innings, gave up only 2 runs. The Brewers they're still on that 10-game road trip, the longest road trip of the season. They're now 3-5. So they can still salvage going 500 on this road trip, but they would have to win tonight and again tomorrow afternoon. The coverage for tonight's game starts at 6:05 on several Civic Media stations, and then the Cubs are at American Family Field to play the Brewers starting on Friday. Okay, I was not really planning to talk about the delays at the Newark airport the other day, but I have to after hearing what Sean Duffy had to say about it. We know that there is a shortage of air traffic controllers. We know that the infrastructure for our air traffic control system needs help. And by needs help, I don't mean cut a check to Elon Musk and let him do whatever he wants with it. Because I've watched his rockets blow up. There are other ways that you can go about improving the air traffic control system. But we've had a labor shortage there as well. Baby boomers retiring. It's an incredibly stressful job, one of the most stressful jobs out there. And yet the government hasn't been hiring at a pace to prevent the shortages. Now, bring President Bull in a China shop into the mix, firing people left and right, telling people through Elon Musk, we want you to quit, we want you to retire, and things get worse. And you're cutting budgets so you can't replace the equipment. And you get things like what happened at the Newark airport with issues with the power, with the radar, with the shortage of air traffic controllers. And so there were massive delays Sunday into Monday at one of New York City's 3 big airports. So I'm looking at this clip from the local affiliate in New York City, ABC 7. So you're going to hear that reporter briefly. And then you're going to hear Wisconsin's own Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, commenting on Fox and Friends about what we ought to do about this. And we'll comment on the other side.
3 radar scopes went black. They lost all the radios at approach.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says he too was stuck at Newark Airport.
We're 3,000 controllers short. And so right now we're working with the union. So when they hit 25 years, they can retire. Or if they hit 56, they can retire. How do we encourage our traffic controllers to stay on a little bit longer, serve their country longer?
No.
That is so...
No. Don't
slimy.
give me the, how do we get our to serve their country longer? From the most stressful job, please stay on it a little longer. We only thought of this now, asking you to stay. And how many times we've heard from Republicans in Congress and the legislature, well, we just need to entice people not to retire early. They spend years trashing federal workers, government workers. They spend years trashing people as lazy and saying, well, they just want to sit at home instead of wanting to work like we all did. You can't do their job.
No.
And you certainly weren't supportive of efforts to pay them properly. You are still living off of what Ronald Reagan did to them, more than 40 years ago, thinking that, oh yeah, tough love. That's the way to go. I also have another Sean Duffy comment about, cars in New York City and how, people have to ride those icky, dirty subways. It's like, why are you all so afraid of cities and why are you so afraid of immigrant labor that the only thing you can suggest out there is, well, put off your retirement, okay? And you guys over there, you make more babies and everything will be fine. We could just do what America's done and fix immigration and let people come in and start doing some work. They want to be here. They just want a country that welcomes them the way that we used to. Hey, we're live from Chippewa Falls. The Midwest Farm Report is next, followed by Dan Schaefer here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Welcome back to The Secret Show with Unhinged Idiots.
Secret Show.
What do I mean by we're unhinged idiots? Here's a comment from Facebook. Politically motivated arrest? Are you kidding? She helped an illegal alien evade arrest. You idiots are completely unhinged.
No, she didn't. So sorry, but
no,
okay.
She didn't. And typing in all capital letters.
You're yelling at me for no reason.
That's
she didn't.
Unhinged.
And if you just read the stories, that's just. And I don't know what it is. Is like as I get more angry and frustrated at what's happening, you think I'd become more angry and frustrated in my rhetoric, but the more I learn and the more I'm hit with things like those kinds of comments, my first thing is just like, no, you're wrong. Okay, I'm gonna get a sandwich now.
Yeah, that's just it. So where it's like, no, I'll recognize this and go, yeah, maybe typing in all caps is unhinged.
Right?
And again, if you're still using illegal alien in your rhetoric, okay, if you're still using the Democrat Party instead of Democratic, there's these things that are just giveaways. You're not taking this seriously.
Can I ask you a question? When did that become a thing? When the big burn is to say the Democrat, just by saying Democrat. What is that? What is that?
It's something that happened right around the Tea Party era, after Obama was elected, and suddenly the folks who were in the Republican Party, but again, not everybody in the Republican Party, but again, if anybody became completely unhinged, it would be after we had America's first black president, and they just were like. Again, the Tea Party was just based on primal screams.
Yeah, I remember that.
That all these things are just terrible. That we've coddled people for so long. We even elected one of them as president, and Democrat Party became a part of that as well. So.
I got into the local small government when they just came to power. Like my boss won in 2009. And it was always like, it's about taxes. It's about racism. Let's just be cute about it.
God, do the butts pucker up when you say that. What? Like, dude, think.
What are you talking about, good sir?
Get the vapors and they clutch their pearls, and it's like, again, put somebody else in the position that you're criticizing. Like, I don't know, all the crime that happens in rural America with meth. I don't hear you talking about that.
No.
Shiju, I feel like social media let people thinking, it's okay to be mean to each other without consequences. Yes, Shiju, exactly.
Ding, ding. Wait, hold on. She's.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Which is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why I've told this story before, but when we got our first website at TV13 back in 2004, whatever it was, and remember the internet was still really new, Facebook was still really new, so we could have stopped this, and I was one of those who said, no, we should not have a comment section. No, we should not. And they're like, no, we have to. The internet, it's interactive. There's engagement and everything. It's like, yeah, but unless you're monitoring everything, things are going to slip through. And I'll go ahead and squeeze in this story here. We did, this was after I left. They did a story on a prominent person in the community. Somebody got in the comments section and was like, oh, yeah, but they're having an affair with so-and-so. And I was just like, I was imagining the lawyers getting involved. And I was like, you guys got to delete that comment. And they did. But of course, it's the internet. So a little while later, the comment comes back because you can't babysit every comment section 24/7. And so, yeah, I don't know the answer. I just know that we could have moderated things better from the beginning to not allow this to become the cesspool that it is.
Well, you have to employ someone whose job is almost completely to take down comments and also explain, hey, you're going to do this. We're taking it down. It's not this isn't a constitutional thing. This is our website, private.
Exactly. This is not the town square. And if you can't do that, then don't do it. Don't have a comment section. Let other people have that filth. But now we all get that filth. Yeah. Secret show.
Unhinged secret show.
Dan Schaefer is with us now, where he runs the Recombobulation area. He's civic media political editor. And before we do political talk with Dan Schaefer, it's time for sports talk with Dan Schaefer. The Bucks need to, you know what I'm going to say next, trade Giannis.
Nope. I can't hear those two words in that order.
And yet
under
here we
any
are.
Circumstances.
Here we are again. Look, the struggle was happening before Dame Lillard went down with a torn Achilles, right? So he's out for a good long time.
Those injuries can go for about a year, so that's really tough. Really tough.
Yeah, not great at all. But can you peg it on anything in particular, or was it a cavalcade of things?
I think it's that cavalcade. I think there are many factors contributing to the Bucks not being especially competitive this year. I think they're still a good team. They're in the playoffs. They're as long as you have Giannis, you have a chance to win any game. But I think the fact the Bucks being a championship contender, I was not coming into these playoffs with expectations that I would be hanging another banner here in Recombobulation Area headquarters. If you can see behind me,
yes,
I have a Bucks banner behind me. Didn't expect to be hanging another one this year. Was hoping that perhaps they could make a little bit of a surprise run, but they came into the series and they were not favored to win, and I was not exactly expecting them to win. So I don't think Doc Rivers has done a particularly great job as coach. I don't think the roster around Giannis and Damian Lillard has been really the type of high-level competitive roster that you need to put together to make a championship run. And, the great teams that we have had here in Milwaukee for the past, almost, however many years that the championship window has been open, kind of feels like this is the moment when that championship window is really getting slammed shut, which is quite the bummer.
And it is unfortunate because we risked turning into the Anaheim Angels all those years they had Mike Trout and just could not do anything with one of the best players around. It's certainly not the only time this has happened in sports, but it leaves you longing, saying we could have done so much more. I can't leave sports without talking about the NFL draft being up in Green Bay. Well, what did you think of that? It seemed like it went awfully well.
Yeah, I was so impressed I didn't get a chance to go, but now I'm kind of regretting that I didn't go. I wasn't really, I'm an NFL fan, but I didn't want to stand around listening to picks for like an entire day with 120,000 people or whatever it was, 200,000 people. But it seems like just from all the reports and all the, talk of people being there that Green Bay did a phenomenal job. And I think you got to give it up for Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy here. This, coming at the end of his tenure as president and CEO, he's passing the torch. What a concept, passing the torch once you reach a certain age in leadership. I wonder if there's anything that can be learned from that in any capacity.
Maybe.
But I think, I think this is really the crowning achievement for Murphy and for Packers fans, and just, bringing this type of event. He said they're never going to have a Super Bowl at Lambeau, and having the second biggest event of the year that the NFL hosts every year there. I think it was a pretty remarkable experience for all involved. So kudos to the city of Green Bay and Merrick Enrick and Mark Murphy and all the good people up in northeastern Wisconsin.
Well, since you mentioned Mayor Genrich, you know that we had him on an hour earlier talking about the column that he wrote for the Recombobulation Area about what Democrats need to do differently in 2026. And so we heard from him in his own words last hour, but for folks who missed it, and certainly your impressions having looked at and published the column, what did you make of his prescription for Democrats so that they don't take for granted the success of the Wisconsin Supreme Court race moving forward?
Yeah, I think, I was thrilled to have an opportunity to publish that piece. And I think, there's so much of it that I agree with Merrick Enrick on. I think what, one of the points that he made that I think really stood out to me is that there's almost like there's this divide between action and inaction in certain corners of the Democratic Party. I think there's certain Democrats who get too comfortable once they get elected. And I think what he was talking about with certain projects that were part of, the bipartisan infrastructure law or the Inflation Reduction Act, and those things taking really a while to get moving, to see the impact from positive legislation that I supported, legislation that I think would be a good thing. But, so many of those aspects of that law have just taken a really long time for people to actually see the effects of them. I think there's going to be, a lot of groundbreakings from that law that might happen, now under Donald Trump's presidency. So I think, that is a really key aspect of it. You have to deliver for people, and you have to show them that the government is working for them, and can't, and I think there's certain ideological aspects that he talks about as well. And, kind of leaning into the economic populism side of the party in particular. But I think it's also, part of it is just action versus inaction, and just like the ability of Democrats to actually show people that they're getting things done, and getting things done quickly.
I think it relates a lot to what Chad Holmes and I were talking about recently when it comes to court cases, whether they involve Donald Trump or Wausau Mayor Doug Dinney with the absentee ballot drop box removal, is that the longer those things go on, the more frustrated people get. And the same goes for these projects. I mean, there's a role for regulations, there's a role for safeguards, but if you aren't also triaging the process, whether it's a court calendar or building a bridge or expanding broadband, you're going to lose the people who would benefit the most. Now they talk about blowing up the system, but as I discussed with Mayor Genrich, when you blow up the system, you often end up blowing up the things that were actually working on your behalf. And that's what we're seeing now, certainly in these first 100 days of the Trump administration.
I can't believe it's only been 100 days, right? We're at this 100-day marker. I think everybody in the national media universe is talking about these 100 days. I feel like I've got a few more gray hairs in my beard after these 100 days. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's only how many more days did we say yet to go? 1,300 and something. So buckle up, everybody.
Yep. But just one example that Mayor Genrich talked about in his column was that we have to have a more effective, people-focused government at state, local, and federal levels. What we don't want, and I'm quoting right from him here, is a Department of Transportation that imposes a regulatory regime so stultifying that it takes 10 years to replace a bridge in downtown Green Bay. Like, these are the type of things that have to happen more quickly. We can't, the gears of government have to move more quickly. And I think there is this divide, I think, in Democratic politics where it is action versus inaction. And you're seeing that in kind of the response to Trump's first 100 days too. I think you have some leaders saying that, we just have to wait and Trump will cause all these problems of his own. And then I think you have other leaders saying, we need to bring the fight to him everywhere that he can. And I tend to agree with the latter of the different blocks of Democrats right now.
And I think that you have to keep things in front of people. It's part of the column that I read and am publishing today about Trump's 100 days, is you look at those elections in Canada that just took place and the surprising win by the Liberals, but look at what they did. They ran against Donald Trump and highlighted all of the ways that he has insulted or economically hurt the country. And if you don't have that same kind of attitude toward the American public, if you just assume they're going to know that all these things are happening, they're not, and they end up making votes based on vibes rather than on the actual things that are taking place. So the people who are engaging in this ongoing series of demonstrations and marches and everything else, I think they'd be wise not to lose the momentum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there was a speech from Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker over the weekend that he gave in New Hampshire. It was just talking about, some Democratic leaders are going off to do podcasts, and some are really bringing the fight. And I think that's what we need to see from every level, I think, too. And I think, we saw the Hannah Dugan arrest here in Milwaukee County last week. And, that's an opportunity. We got a lot of statements from a lot of elected officials in the hours and days that followed that. But I think that arrest is just the tip of the iceberg for what's happening with ICE, with immigration enforcement and what have you. And I think it's going to be really important for people to be vigilant on all levels.
There were people in the immediate aftermath calling on Governor Evers to eventually say that he was going to use the National Guard to protect judges and courthouses in the future. I don't know that was a realistic path, because, the president could just federalize them the way he did, with in Little Rock, Arkansas, back in the late 1950s. But the point was being to take some kind of action, even if that action is, again, continuing to remind people this is not normal, what is happening here. And we're seeing it now with more judges. We just spoke about Judge Isham up north, saying that again, they want some guidelines on how to handle these things. And instead of guidelines, they're getting Tom Tiffany, Romaine Quinn, and others saying, well, maybe these judges ought to just leave office. I mean, we're setting up nothing but confrontations here, which certainly seems like Donald Trump's recipe for success.
And it's like there's this Trumpian paradox at play for this too, right? Where he's so about, he says he's about law and order and in enforcing legal immigration or whatever. So, well, you shouldn't have to break the law and trample the Constitution to do that. It's like you're breaking the law to enforce the law. It's just it's mind-boggling, the approach being taken here.
One text I want to take care of off the text line from Mark in Sussex. For 30 years, Democrats have said that Republicans are going to take your Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's the big lie this station spews. Remember the Paul Ryan ad, sending Granny over the cliff. Mark, I will say again, that wasn't because they wouldn't have gotten away with it if they could have gotten away with it. And this time around, with this budget process, they are very close, Dan, to getting away with it, which is why we're still talking about it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been such a huge part of Republican politics over the years, just going after the quote unquote entitlements. And, if they were able to do it, they would do it.
The recombobulation area has a happy hour coming up. And I say that I've been proud to say that Up North News, held its first ever public event not long ago, that forum about the state Supreme Court race. It was so fun to do it. It was so great to meet people who had been reading Up North News or following us on the radio. And now you're doing this kind of a happy hour. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, we've got a happy hour coming up at one of my favorite breweries in Milwaukee, Third Space Brewing. We're getting together on Thursday evening, 5 to 7. All are welcome, but if you are a paid subscriber to the recombobulation area, your first round is on us. So we are looking forward to getting together and sharing in some community. And one of our priorities at the recombobulation area has always not just been about, producing great content covering news and politics in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, but also about building a community around that. And we get that online sometimes when people share a photo in front of the actual recombobulation area at Milwaukee's airport. And we get that sometimes when we have these little events from time to time, like we have this Thursday at Third Space Brewing in Milwaukee. So again, all are welcome. But if you are a paid subscriber, your first beer is on us. How about that?
I think that's great. As a paid subscriber, I'll be looking for my drink ticket in the mail, and then that I can cash it in at some future point here. Dan Schaefer, thank you very much. We'll talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week, Pat. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, hey, today's history lesson is next, as we always do, mornings up north and live here on the Civic Media Radio Network. And a reminder, sign up for our newsletters, plural newsletters, upnorthnewswi.com. Back after this. Yes, I did freak
that
out.
A little bit of music.
Boy, did I freak out. Whoo. I suppose the music made you freak out.
No, I'm like, whatever. Like, yeah.
But then you paused before you brought in your music, and I was just like, wait, is it 50 instead of 49? And I looked down, I'm like, no, it's 49. I know it is.
49. It's 49.
It's 49, kids. It's 49.
Yeah, I saw that text from Mark in Sussex come through yesterday, and I wanted to respond, but I never do on those. But I'm glad you responded to it, because he never responded back, because that's the other thing too, is like the trolls we've been getting lately, like they troll for like 10 minutes and then they never say another thing about anything else. And when we address them, there's no even like nuanced response. I know, because they're trolls, it's not what they do, but still, like, I would love for somebody like, well, here's a paper, or here's a story, or here's a thing that's research. I want something. I want to be wrong.
Yeah. I that's what I miss. I miss the arguments where I can learn something. That's seriously what it is. Yeah. A lot of us love to learn things. Other people just want to hear themselves reinforce something that they heard on Fox News or whatever the case may be. Go ahead and school me on something. You know what? It's why I gave Brittany Kinzer that shout out. Good for her. That's fantastic. You know, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, she was being disingenuous. No, she wasn't. She was being very genuine, you know, and you can have that nuanced discussion about schools or anything. But when it's just, you're unhinged, like, well, okay, I'm not going to learn anything from you. So we're moving on.
Yeah. Indeed.
So anyway, yeah, if you got, we might do a little lava chicken after the music is done.
Cool. Play for power.
Let me tell you, it was a challenge editing that Dan Schaefer thing, not knowing how the Bucks were going to do.
There, that's taken care of. Hour 3 is done. Let's schedule that for 9 a.m. There we go. That's I want to get those things done. Okay, we got a little less than 30 seconds. Secret show.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone.
This one here is for anybody that says, hey, Pat, hey, Greg, do you guys play any Glenn Campbell other than Wichita linemen? Well, there you go. Because Glenn Campbell's Southern Nights was the #1 song in the United States of America this day in 1977, 48 years ago today.
I mean, we do, but I'm not exactly thrilled. I mean, I love Glenn Campbell. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But you just don't know how much I love that song, everyone.
As much as I don't like Southern Nights, I'd never warmed up to it. But it was that and Rhinestone Cowboy, two of my least favorite Glenn Campbell songs, are the ones that everybody knows because they were on the pop charts, you know.
And the only thing Southern, like Guardians of the Galaxy, really brought Southern Nights back into like, oh, this is fun. It's you know.
Yeah. So anyway, good on the late great Glenn Campbell. George Washington became the first president of the United States this day in 1789, taking the oath of office in New York City. The Louisiana Purchase was made with France on this day in 1803, instantly doubling the size of the young country for the paltry price of $15 million.
Wow.
Yeah. It's now time for the Chippewa Valley segment of today's music.
Wow, Chippewa Falls is really depressing.
Hey.
Come on!
And say it was wrong. This, of course, would be from Bon Iver and Justin Vernon, who has a birthday today. He's 44 years old.
He is a nice young man.
Yes, he is.
He's very, very nice.
Yes. And I like, as I'm looking at the notes here, that you jumped in and corrected my spelling of Bon Iver. I didn't have the space in there. So what kind of a Chippewa Valley resident am I that I didn't have it right, you know?
You didn't even have to admit that. It would just come in, you know.
I know.
And that was more of my thing of like, it's not spaced. I can't. I'll think about it tonight.
Oh, I go back into these show notes after the show if I want to fix a spelling or something. For no reason at all. Other than,
I get you. I get you.
Yep. On this day in 1885, the governor of New York signed legislation creating Niagara State Park, ensuring that Niagara Falls would not be devoted solely to industrial and commercial use. And as I say every day on that year, You see what happens when you don't have a group like Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce. All that pristine land and water just going to waste when it could be used for industrial purposes.
Exactly.
Where's WMC in 1885 when you need them?
Man, America's sad now.
Yes, I know. Let's see. The Young Rascals had the number one song in the country this day in 1966.
1, 2, 3. Good love. Good love. Good love.
On this day in 1973, President Richard Nixon escalated the growing Watergate scandal by firing one of the White House attorneys, White House counsel John Dean, preparing to make John Dean the scapegoat for the Watergate break-in and cover-up. It didn't work. John Dean later cooperated with authorities and helped uncover the smoking gun. He talked about how there was a cancer developing in the White House because of the Watergate cover-up. He went on to write many books about how the Republican Party, the metamorphosis from Barry Goldwater conservative to the authoritarian state that it's in right now. Kirsten Dunst is 43 years old today. Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, is 40 years old today. Rapper Travis Scott is 34 today. Travis Scott is, I guess, a better rapper name than Jacques Webster, his birth name.
His name is Jacques Webster II. I would listen to that. Is an amazing name, Jacques Webster II.
Well, see, now he's got the chance to come out with, kind of like Slim Shady. He can make up a persona and do something entirely different. So, Jacques, Travis, the ball's in your court, buddy.
There you go.
One more number one song this week in 1983, Michael Jackson.
No. Disappear.
This week in 1988, the Eurovision Song Contest. I've never been big into it, but you hear about it every year or so. It's a big deal in Europe, obviously. On this day in 1988, an unknown Canadian singer was the winner of the Eurovision Song Contest. This unknown Canadian singer was named Celine Dion.
Who?
Yeah. People would not be saying that much longer after that. Today is National Guide Dog Day. Today is National Bubble Tea Day. It's Oatmeal Cookie Day.
Okay. If there's nothing else around.
Yeah, and if they're fresh, they got to be fresh. Boy, an oatmeal cookie, you just don't if it's not. It's Mr. Potato Head Day.
Nice.
Celebrate that. Yep. And it's Jazz Day.
Ooh. Nice. I love jazz.
Yeah.
Have you ever picked up oatmeal cookie? Thinking it's a
we all have
chip cookie,
and it's oatmeal raisin.
And you're like, oh,
yep,
ugh.
Yep. I have found a way to get the best of both worlds. First, I'm going to say that Shiju writes on YouTube, going to get me all the boba, which of course would be the bubble tea.
I need a boba tea place around here. There's not really boba tea in Racine and or Kenosha, I don't think.
Really?
I don't think so. I'll look.
Yeah.
I love boba tea. The only problem is there's so much ice that you're like, oh, I paid $7 for 4 ounces of liquid.
I've only had it once, and it was intriguing. I'm not ready to render a judgment yet, one way or the other.
Oh, I feel like you've judged.
No, I want to try it again. It was so unusual. Anyway, I found I created the best of both worlds. My chocolate chip cookies have a little bit of oatmeal in there for texture. That's how you do it. Unless you really like a fresh oatmeal cookie. Hey, remember when I was doing the shows from Idaho and the 6-year-old and we went to the Minecraft movie?
Yeah.
And, of course, it had all kind of silly things like that. There was that silly song about Steve's Lava Chicken. You still got that handy?
Yeah, I think I still have that one. I think it's a...
Lava chicken. Steve's Lava Chicken. Oh, yeah.
So for folks watching on social media, he finally got the T-shirt I sent him as a belated Easter present. Steve's Lava Chicken for the T-shirt. You're welcome, buddy. Much more in the second hour of Up North News Radio. No, Mornings with Pat Kreitlow coming up. Finally happened. Unbelievable. Finally.
Well, it had to get out there.
It had to one of these days. I had this wonderful moment with my grandson's photo up there, and I blew it.
You can send him a text being like, that was your fault.
Yes, Easton, that was all on you, buddy. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Shiju. The latest awesome chicken song is Chicken Banana. I saw that yesterday for the first time. Shiju also says, buy your own tea mix, Greg.
All right.
Adam says,
she didn't. Okay. She didn't say with that tone.
I know. She's got a little winky face at the end of it. Buy your own tea mix, Greg. That makes it sound worse. Now it's just sarcastic. Adam says, go for the cheese tea. Look it up. What?
Okay. People are getting weird.
Yeah. Okay. If I'm mentioning Chicken Banana, you better keep the lava chicken song handy. So, let's see. Cassandra, I feel bad saying this, but I forgot this Bon Iver song. Well, I didn't forget it. I don't have any, so I just grabbed something. There's Rob. Shishu, I was being nice. Then he doesn't have all the ice. Oh, that's how she meant it. Oh, okay. Allow me to start over. Shishu says, buy your own tea mix, Greg. Then you won't have all the ice. I like my first one.
You know,
buy your own tea mix, Greg.
You know, your convenient and logical suggestion, Shiju, is wonderful, but leave me alone. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You're lovely, and we appreciate you being here.
Such a meanie. Words I've never heard about Greg Bach. Such a meanie. Who is on Maggie Dawn today? Who is on Matt and Aaron Air today? Let's go see.
We've got
who's updated the content calendar and who has not.
Calvin did. So we have today.
You have Dr. Lyerly on at 9:30. That's it.
And then nope. We also have at 10:30. We have David Drake on today too. Is that not on the content calendar?
It is not in the content calendar. Todd Alba has Tim Grierson. I assume we got to get people to put pronouncers in these. Maggie Dawn has Dora Drake. Pete Schwaba has comedian podcaster Mike Schmidt and owner of the Chilton Theater, Mike Radu.
Man, I get it. All right, I'll be right back.
How's Brittany today?
Oh, allergies. How are you?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Sherry's got them really bad too. So
You know what helps? Neti pot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, you radical. Here we go.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Who's had one bubble tea and is curious? We'll talk more about that coming up. Good morning, 706. Welcome back. Nice to have you here on what used to be called Up North News Radio. Greg, it took me until like 8 seconds before the top of the hour news break on the fifth, sixth time we do the show to get the name of the show wrong.
Hey, man, it happens. It's probably going to happen again. It's like when you write the wrong year on your check or whatever.
Yes.
You know, and
well, that and I'm still having trouble with my own name in the show. Not something I was necessarily pursuing. So it's like, welcome to Mornings with me.
Schmatt Kreitlow. All right.
we it's called Mornings with Pat. Everything is abbreviated, in work documents. So Up North News used to be UNN. Now the show is abbreviated MPK. Maybe that's what I go with. Welcome back to MPK.
No,
no,
I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it.
Okay, well, it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I can't say, let's get the weather now with BM, Brittany Merlot.
No, don't do that.
See, everything's a little. Brittany, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Well, actually struggling with some allergies, but otherwise
Oh
good.
my goodness, yes. My wife has terrible spring allergies. I feel awful for people because they want to welcome spring, and Sherry really wants to get out there and plant things, but she also gets so miserable. It's just awful. And they haven't invented the perfect medicine for it because you either get drowsy or it gives you weird dreams or everything.
Neti
It's like
pot. Neti pot.
Oh wait,
Neti pot.
I'm hearing a proposed solution from the peanut gallery.
It's
Brittany.
not
what do you think?
It's not a cure, but it definitely. I do a neti pot 3 times a day because of my procedure that I had on my nose a couple weeks ago, and it relieves pressure, cleans out your sinuses, and you won't feel like better, but you'll feel a little bit better.
Yeah. No, it's worth a try.
Or like a turkey looking up in the rain, I'll drown myself. Either one.
Well,
it's going to be one or the other.
That's your fault then.
Let's see. Rob from Tigerton says he has made a doctor's appointment for his allergy, and also noted that Shawano County had 2 tornadoes Monday night near Burnhamwood and Mattoon, and we'll get to more of what Rob had to say a little bit later on. But I was mentioning 24 hours ago that there were reports of a tornado south of Eau Claire. Turns out there were 4 reports, 4 different little tornadoes that came down briefly, and thankfully did not. They could have done a lot worse, but it was a busy night Monday night. But now, oh my goodness, so lovely out there.
Yeah, now it's not too bad.
Shame it won't last. Tell us more, Brittany.
We can't catch a break. I mean, I
No.
guess yesterday was our little bit of a break there, but right now we are below freezing in a lot of the northern parts and even into Black River Falls and places into Door County. You fall below freezing already this morning. And so there's frost out there. Temperatures in La Crosse, you're the warmest at 41 degrees right now with a lot of sunshine east and south. But the further north you go, there's a lot more cloud cover up there. But everybody today is going to see increasing clouds as we go through the afternoon because we've got another storm system down to the south that wants to swipe us. And of course, that's going to bring some rain in. So before we get there, we're still going to warm things up today. Low to mid 60s with increasing clouds. Of course, drizzle pushing into the southern parts of the state this evening. And we're also looking at that rain ramping up as we go through the overnight and into tomorrow morning, mainly hitting harder down south. But of course, up north, we could see some light showers and some light drizzle as well as we go into the overnight and tomorrow morning. Now, tomorrow stays damp, dark and dreary, mostly cloudy skies. High temperatures a little bit cooler, low 50s to low 60s tomorrow. And then we've got a little push of cold air that comes through at night, which is going to fire up another line of showers and storms. Now, that starts at 4 o'clock northwest, works its way through the state overnight into Friday morning. And Friday morning, go figure, we could see some flurries flying just south of Lake Superior. So we've got a little bit of winter still mixing in, frost and flurries with tornadoes and damage and rain rolling in. Spring is wild with allergies too. But overall, we're not looking at severe weather as we move forward through the rest of this week. We're just looking at some more rain headed our way.
I don't do much for camping, but I really feel bad for anybody that would like to get some camping in between the cold and the rain, maybe the allergies as well. This is not camping friendly weather yet, for sure.
No, not yet.
Yep.
Will it ever be?
Yeah, good question. Good morning from Tigerton. It's cloudy and 34 degrees. I have an appointment in Shawano today and then get instructions for my colonoscopy on Monday. To be honest, I wish it was over. Rob, I've had it done twice. It's absolutely fine, and it's very important from a health standpoint, so get her done. I go to church tonight because Sunday beginning the prep. I'm hoping to begin mowing season on Saturday. We were talking about oatmeal cookies and bubble tea earlier. Rob says when I was a kid, I'd go to my Grandpa Lehman's house and get a fresh oatmeal cookie. That was a real treat back in the day. And Shiju wants to get all the bubble tea. Says, Greg, if you don't like all the ice, then, just get your own tea mix for it. And Adam says, go for the cheese tea. Look it up.
What?
Sheesh. Sheesh.
I don't know. Again, I'm intrigued. I also mentioned in the last segment the Minecraft movie and the Lava Chicken song. And then they also scream out chicken jockey. And like people throw their popcorn, you shouldn't throw your popcorn. But I did send the 6-year-old a T-shirt that has Steve's Lava Chicken on it, and we'll play the song again just because there's another chicken song that's out there. But first, before Steve's Lava Chicken goes away, here's the song.
Lava chicken, Steve's Lava Chicken, oh yeah.
And then Shiju adds, the latest awesome song is Chicken Banana. Which, again, normally I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But sure enough, as I was doom scrolling yesterday, up comes the Chicken Banana song. I haven't had time to look it up, but this is our nation and its productivity level in the year of our Lord.
Chicken banana.
There it is.
Banana. Chicken banana.
Oh, wow. This is nightmarish.
Banana. Banana. Banana.
Oh, wow.
Again.
Okay, well, that's in my head now forever.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
You never know what's going to catch on. I did want to say, Brittany, before you go, with the temperatures being what they are, 30s in the morning, 60s in the afternoon. The one thing I don't miss now is as a parent and getting your elementary school kids ready. And you want them dressed up, in a heavier coat in the morning. It's still in the 30s, and some of them don't want to, especially middle school. They're like, no, I don't have to, and they're freezing. But then in the afternoon, they forget to bring their coat home because it's in the 60s. And so then there's times you have like 2-3 different coats to put on your kid, or you put on one of your, here, you're wearing dad's sweater now because you need something, and you left your 2 other coats at school. So
Isn't that true, though?
I would remind people, at the end of the school year, even if you don't think you're missing anything, go to your school's lost and found. I am amazed at how much stuff goes unclaimed at the end of the school year from parents who just assume their kids' coats evaporated or something. It's there.
My iPod.
No, I don't think it's that, but definitely the coats at this time of year. It's so tough to. And then the high schoolers. Oh my gosh, the fights I used to have with my firstborn, where she'd be like, "I guess you can't go to school in your pajamas, Dad. They're sleep pants."
Whatever. Sleep.
Girls have got it down now, though. Yoga pants are pretty much sleep pants, right?
Oh yeah.
You're always in yoga, and then the best invention ever, jeggings. Where you're like, hey, you guys like yoga pants? You want them to look like jeans? Perfect.
Like I said, I don't miss that. Rob writes in, I have more coats in my truck than I do in my house. Yes.
Yeah.
I've had that in the car sometimes as well. So
that's my problem too.
Okay.
Brittany, is it not always the best when he starts and then he has second thoughts like, should I say this?
Yeah.
No,
I'll totally say this. So I used to work at a place and they had attire restrictions, and
Like
my
white
coworkers-
walls or radios?
No,
or-
no, like pants.
Oh,
and
clothing,
shirts,
attire.
clothing,
Gotcha.
attire. My gosh, Pat.
Sorry.
And I don't have a problem with women wearing yoga pants. No problem with that whatsoever. But I have a pair of designer sweatpants that were given to me for Christmas. They were like a nice Christmas present.
Sure.
Idris Elba, the actor, has his own clothing line, and someone gave me a pair of his sweatpants.
I too am mistaken for him. Yes, I get
And
it.
I
Yeah.
went to work wearing these very expensive sweatpants, expensive to me. And I got told I couldn't wear them. I'm like, these are like more expensive than jeans the kids are wearing. What?
Ooh.
I was so mad because men don't have yoga pants. We don't have a version of yoga pants.
Yes.
No, you don't.
I
point.
did buy from a different line. You see these things like, oh, sweatpants that you could wear out. They look like jeans. And so I did buy a pair that supposedly looked like jeans. And I wore them once. I was so self-conscious the whole time. Like, everybody knows these are sweatpants. No, I'm not fooling anybody.
You just
Right.
scream in the middle of Costco, I know they're sweatpants.
So I now have evening loungewear that costs too much.
You have sleep pants, Pat.
Yes, sleep
Yep.
pants. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly it. Cassandra writes on YouTube, with a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, I feel this coat issue in my bones. Yes, we totally understand that. Brittany, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. You too.
We'll see you again. Well, what am I telling her? A great day. We'll see her again right after the 8 o'clock news. We got this whole 3-hour show here going now that we get to tell you about, including some of the things that are coming up later here across the Civic Media Radio Network. And before Mr. Bach tells you what's coming up on Matt and Air on Air, I'll tell you that on Todd Alba, he's got film critic Tim Grierson on his 5 favorite Nicolas Cage movies. On Maggie Dawn, we've got State Senator Dora Drake. And on Nightlight with Pete Schwaba tonight, comedian, podcaster Mike Schmidt and the owner of the Chilton Theater, Mike Radu. Meanwhile, Matt and Air on Air follows this program from 9 to 11. And you have...
We have Dr. Kristen Lyerly at 9:30. We're going to be talking about, we'll talk about what we talk about. I won't lie. I can't remember right now, but I believe we're going to be talking about HHS. And then also at 10 o'clock, we will have David Drake, who is from UW Extension. And we're going to be talking about the works to try to get rid of protection for endangered species. That's happening in the federal government right now. They're trying to lift certain protections on endangered species. He is a professor from the Department of Forest and Wildlife Ecology at UW-Madison. And then at 10:35, Emma Schatz, who is the digital comms coordinator for Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin, I'm talking about Fat Bird Week. That's happening.
I'm sorry.
Fat Bird Week, which is next week.
Okay.
It's exactly what you think it is, Pat.
Yeah, it's a week.
It's voting on, as it says on the website, voting on your favorite bulbous bird. Eight chubby contestants. Good Lord.
Oh,
in
boy.
a single elimination bracket style.
Oh my gosh. Oh, look at this. Cassandra was at the Joint Finance Committee meeting in Wausau yesterday. Oh, Greg, one of the people with hundreds of beavers, the movie, was at the Joint Finance Committee meeting yesterday and made me think of you.
Because artists care about where they live.
And it's still sitting there. Shiju says, I like that I got to jam out to Chicken Banana on my drive to work. Thank you, guys. P.S. Sleep pants is a lovely turn of a phrase. That's putting it very mildly. The Brewers beat the White Sox 7-2 last night. They do it again this evening. 6:05, I believe, is the start time across the Civic Media Radio Network. Several stations picking up the game, and then they play again tomorrow afternoon. And finally come home to American Family Field to play the Chicago Cubs in a weekend series. And the Bucks were eliminated last night, losing in overtime to Indiana, 119 to 118. Our homeroom segment coming up in just about 15 minutes, as we do every Wednesday, and meet here every morning, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Still clunky on those transitions, but
now you're so afraid to say the name of the show.
Now I'm in my head. Absolutely, And again, for folks who are still with us here, it's because we now have these local segments where some of our stations break away and some stay. So I can't tell them, I can't say here's what's coming up next. because it isn't next for everybody. Some places are going back to their hometown station. So I have to think, okay, what's coming up at 7:30? All right, talk about that. And then, I have forgotten my outro, and hence the clunky tosses. But we're getting better. No, actually, we're not, but we're going to get better.
Mm-hmm. And then if
Craig's like, yeah, sure thing, Jan. Sure.
And
Sure, Jan.
if there's anything from today that you want marked for content, please let me know.
You mean that whole segment wasn't it? Bubble tea and sleep pants?
If you want, man.
Yeah, it's I marked off Greg changing the bongos right off the top there. That was, and talking all about the Joint Finance Committee in Wausau.
So that first I can mark that first segment for content.
You can, yeah.
Okay, all right.
We can also do Sean Duffy wanting air traffic controllers to retire.
That's
that was it. That was in 1B.
Yeah, I'm watching you type right now.
Oh,
I'm watching you guys type.
There we go.
La 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 la. All right, coming back in 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. I should focus on that. Welcome back. It's a Wednesday morning, April 30th, just about 7:23 now, all across the Civic Media Radio Network, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow along with Greg Bach, and we mentioned earlier in the program that we were going to get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the induction ceremony later this year. Mm-hmm. The honorees were announced on Sunday night, I believe, during American Idol, and I was just going to list them and let it go at that, and then Greg let me know he has feelings. And so I returned to my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame list. And by the way, if you have feelings on this, 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Bad Company, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame worthy?
You know what? They are in a small group of bands who have a song that is the name of their band. That's the name of their record. Bad Company is a song called Bad Company on their album called Bad Company. I love it. Black Sabbath, same thing. Run the Jewels, same thing. I like any band that does all three in one shot. So,
okay.
I will say this.
Yes.
The entire class you'll read off. I have no problem with any of them being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay. I'm a little peeved that Warren Zevon and Salt and Pepper are getting special recognition rather than full admission. I think that's
so is that this musical influence award? Is that their way of saying you guys get to go here in the Hall of the Very Good?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think it's the same as it's a special award. It's not something nothing to shake is. I'll never get it, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure it doesn't come with full induction into the Hall of Fame.
Okay, but I mean, it's like those things where you're in an exhibit in Cooperstown, but you're not actually in the Hall of Fame. But you're like, yeah I am. I'm in an exhibit.
We're going to give you a lifetime Academy Award achievement because you never won. So we're doing this for us. Yeah.
Okay.
So the entire class I'm fine with, and that's Bad Company.
Yep. No, hold on. I'll go through them. Bad Company. I'm just going to say had some great tunes. I don't know that it's Hall of Fame worthy. That's where I am. I think people were starving for somebody that still sounded like the Beatles. Oh wait, that was Badfinger. Never mind. Okay. Chubby Checker. Chubby Checker.
Yep.
How is he not in there already?
Yeah, he should have been in like the second or third class, in my opinion.
Yeah. Joe Cocker, again, legendary. Cyndi Lauper, that gets into the thing of like, now I remember when they were new and unusual and everything. Is it Hall of Fame worthy? Arguably for representing the genre of the early 80s music, yes, for Cyndi Lauper. Outkast, I don't know. Oh, go ahead.
Outkast is a revolutionary hip hop band. They changed the sound. They helped bring attention to the South when it comes to rap music. Before then, it was you were either East Coast or West Coast, and that was it. And they brought a flavor and a style and an individuality to their type of music that hadn't been heard before, or not been popular before, I should say.
Okay. Soundgarden.
Absolutely. They're one of the Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains should be in there, but they're not. But like they're the bands, like they were at the forefront of alternative and grunge before they even had those titles.
And let me say this about Soundgarden. I may have actually heard a song from them once, but I was busy listening to Neil Diamond records over here, so I got nothing.
Yeah.
The White Stripes.
White Stripes, Jack White, one of the most like iconic figures of music nowadays. One of the big like rock and roll stars is something you don't see a whole lot of anymore, like Dave Grohl and Jack White. But the White Stripes, 2-piece band from Detroit, garage rock, just making excellent music and very influential.
And of course, we mentioned Salt and Pepper, and Warren Zevon will get the Musical Influence Award, to which Shiju puts on YouTube, Participation Award. Shake my head.
Oh,
that was
spice
harsh.
comment from Shizu.
And then, Cassandra, we love that you put up comments on YouTube. Please, I'm not mocking you. This was just so perfect. This was perfect in the age of spell check, or, you hit enter too soon, that I have to put it up here on screen as well. Cassandra originally wrote on YouTube, once they put Madonna in there, I was fine. And then she puts a correction. Done. Once they put Madonna in there, I was done. But it came out fine in the beginning. Don't you hate when you do that? You're like, no, that's not what I meant to say.
I should have said this. That's a fair point. I get that. People don't like the fact that hip hop artists are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but to me, it's all rock and roll. It's all about art.
You're saying it's all rock and roll to me?
It's all rock and roll to me. And my only complaint is that Fish didn't get in. They are a heavily influential band. They've sold 13 million tickets and they've been around for 40 years. They've played Madison Square Garden, sold out 87 times.
Wow.
And so the fact that they didn't make in the fan vote, they just whooped everybody else in the fan vote. So they'll get in eventually. And one of their set pieces, we had this conversation with Jane earlier on Monday about this, that one of their set pieces from one of their New Year's Eve shows from Madison Square Garden is a permanent fixture at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So the fact that they're not in on the first ballot is ridiculous to me. And it's how I feel about Bad Company too. I feel like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not very friendly to 70s arena rock.
Yeah.
Jam bands, they're not very friendly to either. It takes an overwhelming force from the audience to make them budge.
Shiju has an opinion on YouTube as well that goes right in. I think she must agree with you about something. She says, still mad about Styx, Greg.
Boston isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall. Boston.
Uh-huh.
Come on.
She writes, I have a coworker that loves Fish. He's seen them over 20 times. We tease him about it.
Cassandra, you never listen to Fish then. You'd fall in love with them if you listen.
That's what everybody says.
Yep.
All this stuff I should be listening to. Again,
I can curate a Fish playlist for anybody. And tell me what you think of them, and I will curate a list that will work for you perfectly.
Well, I like this. Okay. Again, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame live November 8th on Disney Plus. 4+ hour concert. Totally worth it. It'll be on Hulu the next day, November 9th, and then a condensed version on ABC sometime in December. When we come back, we will have our homeroom segment where we will talk to a guest from the Wisconsin Public Education Network about getting lead paint out of Milwaukee schools. Honestly, how is this still a thing? That's coming up next, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. Cassandra says, I'd love that, Greg.
Cassandra, tell me what kind of music you like when it comes to rock. Do you like singer-songwriter? Do you like long jams? Do you like psychedelic? I can do that. I can make something happen. I'm very happy to do that. So,
all right, I'm ready. I'm ready to give you the challenge, buddy. I'm ready.
One of the biggest one of the biggest misconceptions about Phish is everyone thinks they're just a dirty, druggy jam band, and they jam, but they're not. They're more nuanced.
You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yacht rock.
What do you mean? What do you mean yacht rock?
You said, tell me what you like, and I can make a Phish playlist for it. Can you make a Phish playlist for somebody who listens to yacht rock?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be like Loggins and Michael McDonald, but I will. You could listen to it on a boat. Hold on, hold on. There's a phone call coming through. 1 second.
Go for it.
Hey, Pat. Pat.
Yes.
I got Jenny on the phone.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
So, just wanted to let you know that. Great. All right, cool.
All right.
Bye for now.
Okay. If you were watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver this past Sunday night, your ears might have perked up to hear them talk about Milwaukee public schools and the lead paint that is still in Milwaukee public schools and how Milwaukee officials turned to the Centers for Disease Control for help with their lead paint problem. And we're told that the Trump administration basically fired everybody and ended the program that deals with lead paint in schools. Again, tax cuts for the very wealthy. You got to pay for them somehow, kids. When you say, how is lead paint still a thing? We'll ask our guest in just a moment here. But can I give you a hint in the beginning? Here are some of the buildings in Milwaukee Public Schools found to still contain lead paint. And the year they were built: Fernwood Montessori School, 1927. Robert La Follette School, 1898. Trowbridge School of Great Lakes Studies, 1894. Francis Brock Starms Early Childhood Center, 1893. Albert Kegel School, 1890. Golda Meir Lower Campus, 1890. Maryland Avenue Montessori School, 1886. We are teaching our children in school buildings built in 1886 while we're building multi-billion-dollar sports arenas and other things. It would seem to me that our state legislators could be doing a better job of taking care of our kids and keeping them from getting poisoned in our schools. And our next guest happens to agree with that. Jenny Hofschulte has been helping out with the Lead Safe Schools Milwaukee Grassroots Advocacy Group, as well as the Wisconsin Public Education Network. Jenny, good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Pat. Happy to be with you again.
Certainly when I talk to anybody from the Wisconsin Public Education Network, we understand the almost generation-long battle that we've been fighting to have, our education of our kids better funded out of Madison. And we will get to the legislature's responsibility for this in a moment. But because you've been active in this particular issue, I wanted to give you a chance as well to kind of give your 30,000-foot view of the issue. What is it that got you involved in it? And what is it what are some of the things that you and parents would like to see done to finally remove this lead paint danger from our schools?
Well, thanks for having me, Pat, and thank you for that question. I will say my involvement with Lead Safe Schools Milwaukee came as a group of parents were rallying together to ask questions of the district and to just get more information as, the lead crisis, as it's been characterized, has been making the news. And so I was actually invited in to help give an even wider perspective about disinvestment and budgeting. But I will say, as a Milwaukee Public Schools parent of now 21 years, it does concern me deeply about deferred maintenances and other things. And, I think when you have a building stock as old as MPS's, you're going to have lead in the schools. And the historic disinvestment, generational, as you put it, has led us to this point where, the buildings have lead in them and it's being exposed.
It is being exposed, and these are known issues. We've known about this for some time, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel has, of course, done a stellar job of following this in some of their writing, including a timeline of the issue. And believe me, in no way, shape, or form does this take MPS, the school district, off the hook. There's plenty to say about, again, deferred maintenance and how they manage a budget. But you can't help but look at this, Jenny, and not look at the larger issue of why are school budgets everywhere so financially challenged? And it's a condition that the Public Education Network has been trying to inform folks about for quite a long time now.
For sure. Our oldest son just turned 24. And when he was 3 years old, I asked the question the first time about why schools in Wisconsin were so inequitably funded so inequitably, right? And so I feel like we've been asking this question since the 90s with revenue caps. And then what we've also experienced since the early 2000s is actually a hostile legislature towards public schools. And the Wisconsin Public Education Network is definitely not an apologist for the missteps of public school districts, but we do believe in the public being involved in the public schools, and that the public and the district, the professionals and the educators know best about what kids and students need. And those needs have fallen short to the ears of the legislature. We are now currently, go ahead.
Oh, no, you said we are now currently doing what?
The budget process for the state of Wisconsin. The last hearing wrapped up yesterday. That's the the mandated time for input from the public, but that doesn't mean the public should stop calling their legislators, calling Governor Evers. I know that a lot of times people, especially perhaps your listeners, Pat, will say like, well, the governor's a Democrat, so he'll do the right thing. You know what? People need courage, they need support, and they need to know what their constituents want in order to make those right moves. And in the last budget, Governor Evers did disappoint the education community for public schools across the state. And we want him to know that we still have an expectation of him to be the education governor, and that he can push back and he can use his bully pulpit to get the things kids in schools need in Wisconsin.
A reminder to folks that while the Joint Finance Committee hearings are done, you can still have input on what legislators should put in the state budget, in your opinion, by sending an email to budget.comments@legis.wisconsin.gov. Budget.comments@legis.wisconsin.gov. We're talking to Jenny Hofschulte, an MPS parent and also an organizer for the Wisconsin Public Education Network. And as we talk about this in our segment every week, and we talk about the chronic underfunding of schools, a problem like this does enable us to shift from the focus on, what happens in the classroom to having enough funds to maintain the facilities. And we have seen such an increase in referendums out there, not to build anything new. A lot of people say, they want to, build a new sports facility or a new computer lab or whatever. No, this is, I always use the phrase to keep the lights on, but really it's so much more than that. And it may be to replace an old boiler, or it may be to replace a leaking roof, or it may be to finally get rid of the lead paint that's in these buildings that date back to the 19th century. Jenny, do you feel like more folks are understanding as time goes by the need for state funding to adequately cover infrastructure as well as instruction?
Yeah, we've definitely seen a giant increase in the less vanity projects and the more keeping the lights on, as you would say, Pat. I mean, at the Wisconsin Public Education Network, we definitely want to keep our focus on imagining a Wisconsin where the legislature and the majority party does prioritize our kids in schools, and that they are starting investing in our schools up front so that communities don't have to spend all this time and energy going to referendum. If anyone's ever served on their local referendum team, a yes committee, it's an incredible amount of work. It's a huge grind. And those types of conversations, getting your community to elect to raise their own taxes to help keep the lights on, sows a lot of consternations in communities. It's hard not to get a little bitter over time about how much energy advocates for public schools are spending trying to keep these referendum flowing, these dollars flowing, when the legislature has the power to do the right thing for kids.
They most certainly do. Shiju writes on YouTube, there's minimal assistance from the state budget. Those not in education don't realize how little is actually paid for by the state and how much is from the taxpayers. And it's from taxpayers in two different areas, either from the state where there's a lot of income tax revenue, which is more progressive, as opposed to the property tax at the local level, which is not nearly, it's more regressive instead. Cassandra notes, she went to the Joint Finance Committee meeting in Wausau yesterday. What I learned at the meeting, districts have to take from their general funds to cover shortfalls in things like special education reimbursement. And we've talked about that, Jenny, quite a bit as well, that there may be a growing consensus among legislators that they have to do even more for special education funding reimbursement, because if they do, then that does free up some of the local dollars for things like lead abatement, roof replacements, other infrastructure needs. So this is all connected in budgets, but you've got to have the will to actually fund the whole thing, meaning public schools in Wisconsin. And that sounds like it's still an ongoing challenge.
It is an ongoing challenge, and it's a difficult time in the Capitol. With the majority party does get to dictate who sits on committees, what the makeup is of majority parties versus minority party affiliations on these different committees. The Joint Finance Committee is heavily Republican right now by design, but the margins within the assembly are much closer. And so the less time they spend in joint sessions, the less opportunity Wisconsinites get to see that they are, increasingly being represented by pro-public legislators. And right now, I think the majority party is feeling a little bit of a crisis. And I do think it's an opportunity. They're going to have to answer to their constituents with our fair maps. And it's true. We are taking enormous amounts of money out of regular budget in order to cover the services for special education, which is 100% the right thing to do. I do think sometimes this conversation sounds like it's pitting regular education students versus special education. And that's not the case at all. It's the right thing to do. The wrong thing to do is to reimburse private voucher schools up to 90% of their special education services, which they did in the last budget, while maintaining this around 30% reimbursement for public schools, which just seems, continues to be asinine decision-making to harm the majority of children in the state of Wisconsin for the benefit of a few.
And while the subject of lead in water pipes is not exactly the same as lead paint in schools, they both are very real public health threats, especially to our children. So I would remind people that, yes, indeed, back in 2019, Republicans had a chance to put $40 million in the state budget for lead pipe replacement, but they took it out. In the words of state legislator John Nygren at the time, he said, "My understanding is that the proposal, a vast majority of it is going to Milwaukee, rather than people from Marinette funding, rather than having people fund lead replacement in Milwaukee. I'm not sure that that's necessarily fair from a taxpayer standpoint." And that is an indefensible thing to say, Jenny, and that attitude is still there. That, well, if it's just going to Milwaukee, then we don't have to vote for it.
I mean, it's indefensible, and I wish I hadn't been living in that for the last 21 years, Pat. Every time I've been to Madison to stand up for and to advocate for students of Milwaukee, I hear racist tropes. I hear incredibly insane things from legislators that have no idea or perspective about the city whatsoever. And it is much easier to kick at Milwaukee than it is to take a hard look at our inequities of the state and to do something about it. We see some of this kicking comes from our own local against the public school district as well. The city of Milwaukee and the Milwaukee Public Schools aren't always working together. We've staved off several mayoral takeover events. I just imagine a Wisconsin where we're all on the same team, and the same team is the future of Wisconsin, and that's for the kids across the entire state.
If only we could finally get back to that place, or get to that place. Jenny Hofschulte from the Wisconsin Public Education Network. Jenny, thank you so much for the background. Appreciate all that you're doing, and thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Pat. Have a great day.
All right. You as well. Hey, thanks for spending your mornings with us live from Lake Wissota here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. All right. Thank you, Jenny.
Oh my God, it's the great Todd Alba again.
What are you doing here? This is the wrong day. It's no.
Secret Show. The tagline for Secret Show sounds like a drug, like Secret Show because you're worth it.
It's Preference by L'Oreal because you're worth it.
Secret Show. Side effects may include leaking gums, depressed feet,
anal leak.
I've been up for the
wait,
last 4 hours. I can't get back to bed. What's going on?
Oh man.
Yeah, good idea, Todd. All right.
It's a proper way to sip coffee. So you can aerate
In my
your taste
makeshift
buds.
Civic Media mug.
Your makeshift, yeah.
Yeah, stickers, baby. Todd, are you going to be in Madison on Saturday night?
Why would you be in Madison on Saturday night?
Or for the WBA awards?
Oh, WBA's that thing I've kind of forgot to do again.
Yeah,
maybe next year.
I'm looking forward to hanging out with the awards. It's like I'm looking forward to hanging out with all of you guys. So
that's great.
All right, 23 seconds. Secret Show.
Weirdly specific. Looking ahead to Friday, we will be talking to Brian Kennedy, the mayor of Glendale. He's also the head of a national organization of local elected leaders, encouraging others to run for local office, to which we say amen. Can't do enough to encourage people to run for their local city council, town board, school board, county board, whatever the case may be. You can really make a difference that way. Todd Alba is back with us, just like yesterday, but in his new time slot, which was actually his old time slot, but he's here. And his cool new time, Wednesdays, 2 to 4, across the Civic Media Radio Network. Mr. Alba, how are you?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm like Groundhog's Day. I just keep, it's the same
He just
thing
pops
every
up.
morning.
Yep.
Yep.
7:53. He just pops up out of the little box here on the screen. Yep.
Sunday morning.
Sonny and Cher.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to trigger you, but well, yeah, I do.
Oh,
I
Lord.
will. I will.
Yes, you do.
Because we of course spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the first 100 days of Donald Trump in office. Only 1,341 to go. Yay. But again, the New York Times. What is with the hero worship here? It is here's their top headline.
Today. What are they doing?
Their top headline. After being arrested and shot at, Trump takes on second term with a new fervor. Donald Trump acted like a man on a mission to transform America and exact retribution against his enemies. And then you go inside and it says, having escaped prison and death, he didn't escape prison, he escaped accountability. Having escaped prison and death, Donald Trump has returned to power seeking vindication and vengeance and has done more in his first 100 days to change the trajectory of the country than any president since Franklin Roosevelt. What the actual bloody hell is that?
Is that an opinion piece or is that a story?
It's an analysis piece. It says analysis by Trump apologist Peter Baker, who is the New York Times chief White House correspondent. But this is hardly the first, cream puff.
Well, you were coming across twice. I had my phone on. Sorry about that.
I think that line right there, smack in the middle, says it all. Retribution and revenge. That's exactly what this has been. And he's talked about that the entire time he's been running since 2021.
That is very true, but he has also tried to talk at times to a moderate audience. And when he talked about the whole concept of what would become Doge, it was all about we're going to do an audit. We're going to look for these things. And no, they didn't. They just started slash and burning. And now Trump's excuse, and you heard it in the interview yesterday. Oh well, we said there was going to be a period of transition. We said there was going to be pain. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Todd, did I mishear him? because I will say again,
No.
no, you didn't. You said on day one, prices are coming down. On day one, we're fixing Ukraine.
Yeah.
You lied.
I had not seen this analysis or headline, whatever you want to call it, New York Times. I think it's a pretty simple answer because I'm a simple guy, and it's also really disturbing. It's that now corporate America, more than ever before, we know it's always happened this way to an extent, but never before have we seen an all-out, unapologetic play to one individual person, the President of the United States, to gain favor so that the government of the United States either A, doesn't punish them in some way, or B, rewards them in another so that they can make more money. And I mean, this to me seems to be the New York Times making an inside decision that we're going to suck up to Trump. You saw Bill Owen, the longtime executive producer of 60 Minutes on CBS, resign last week because of this. He felt pressure from Paramount Global, the parent company of CBS News, that he could no longer run 60 Minutes the way he had before because he was getting pressure from above. We've seen CBS in the middle of settling a lawsuit that they were on the right side of. We've seen ABC Disney pay 20 million plus to Trump for a lawsuit they were on the right side of. And so, and yes, just yesterday, Amazon said they were going to put next to on Amazon Prime how much the Trump tariffs were going to cost Amazon buyers. Trump picks up the phone, calls the owner of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. Guess what? It doesn't happen. And I think once again, it's getting more difficult to see the line between a quasi state-run media and independent journalism.
Yes.
Well put. Really well put.
So there goes our 100 days. Well, I'm sure we'll have something to say, at the 200-day point. But look, if you know the Todd Alba Show for nothing else other than cutting edge political commentary, you have to know the other important thing about the Todd Alba Show is he will remind you every day it's a great day to be a Wisconsinite. Mm-hmm. Because here in Wisconsin, you can have guests like film critic Tim Grierson listing your listing your 5 favorite Nicolas Cage movies.
And why are all 5 of them The Rock? Thank you.
Well, ask Tim that today. I don't know. Guys, we try to have a little bit of fun. I mean,
you have to.
I still believe all the headlines out there because I'm fortunate enough I get to travel around and I get back to Richland County a lot. I get to Eau Claire a lot. I get down to Milwaukee quite frequently, not just for work, but where my friends and family are. And I don't know. I think that if we just stop and take a moment, it really is a great place to live and work. I see all this weather happening all over the country, and geez, I mean, Wisconsin is still in that area that's pretty darn good in terms of a place to live and a place to work, and so I feel blessed. And once in a while, we have a national film critic like Tim Grierson talking about Nicolas Cage,
and that's what we need. As Greg and Jane call it, a palate cleanser.
Yes,
exactly.
You've got to have those things, so we need to remind folks.
Audio sorbet.
Yep.
Look at that.
Todd will inform you, and Todd will delight you again today from 2 to 4. Thank you, Mr. Alba. Have a wonderful day.
Oh, you're welcome. Only because Pat Kreitlow and Trigby are going to be reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'll show up with old man Trigby there. Greg Bach is back in 1 hour for Matt and Air on air as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Remember, you can follow my team over at Up North News all day long at upnorthnewswi.com, and of course, right here mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. He pulled off the non-clunky transition finally. Woo!
Normally, I would say, great show, guys. Have a good... No, for those watching the secret show, there is an hour left of Pat Kreitlow.
Yes, there is.
I will say, Pat, very, very good at throwing to the break sooner. This
hour, getting
very,
there,
very good.
I couldn't even see Luke's lips moving while you were saying all that. But yes, Luke.
I'm the one who's saying it, buddy.
I know, but so is somebody else.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
See you guys later. Bye.
See you both later.
Todd.
Oh, I have to wait for Sam here.
I'm waiting for Sam.
Okay, you wait for Sam. I'll be back.
All right.
Wait, I have to wait for Sam.
I was gonna say
I have
yeah,
to
I was
let
like-
him in.
yeah, really. Like I was like, how long is this gonna take him to realize?
Yep. That's okay. There's still some coffee to slurp over here. So.
Let's see here.
All right, there's Sam. There he is now.
All
Hello,
right.
Sam.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good.
Good. All right. I just want to make sure we can hear you.
Yes.
Can you do me a solid? I got the podcast all set up and ready to go. Can you do me a solid? Just be if you hear anything in the third hour for content, just mark it, please.
Oh,
Yeah. Any content promotion. I realize I can't do that.
I promise not to be funny or high quality in the third hour, Greg. You have nothing
Please
to worry
be
about.
funny and high quality. Be more funny and high quality. That's what I want.
Okay.
But yeah, if you see any, if you see something, say something, Sam. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Welcome back.
What's up?
Oh boy. All right. Just watching troll comments. All right. Here we go.
Oh, that was fun.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, good morning. It is 8:06 on this Wednesday, the last day of April. May Day tomorrow. Nice to have you here up north. Sam is on the board. Greg is back in an hour along with Jane Matnair from Matnair on Air. Sam, good morning. I believe the folks online are becoming much more aware of your presence here. Shiju writes on YouTube. Good morning, Sam. So there you go.
Good morning.
You got a fan. So,
right.
Brittany Merlot is with us as well, our Civic Media meteorologist, to tell us what we've got. A day that is starting off very bright, certainly nothing like the bumpy, stormy stuff we had on Monday. But again, bit of a roller coaster temperature and condition-wise as we go through the rest of this week.
Yeah, it really is. We've got another system sitting on our back doorstep after, of course, 4 confirmed tornadoes touched down in southern Eau Claire County and 1 long tract in Shawano County. 80 to 95 mile per hour winds were in those tornadoes. EF0 to EF1 is what they were rated. And of course, now we're trying to get past that severe weather with more rain sitting on the door. And of course, we are looking at temperatures much cooler too. Yesterday was a little crisp and cool. Now we're going to warm things up a little bit more mild into the low to mid 60s today. A lot of sunshine to start for a good chunk of the state, but it is cloudy far northeast, and the rest of the state's going to become cloudy as we go through the afternoon. So more and more clouds moving in as the system gets closer to us. Right now it's raining in St. Louis. That drizzle will be headed our way by this evening. Of course, the rain will be ramping up overnight, especially into our southern areas, and it's going to be working its way more widespread through the overnight and into tomorrow morning. So a lot of us will be waking up to a damp and dreary start tomorrow with the rain lingering. It does look like it dries out a little bit through the afternoon, but then we've got a front pushing through that's going to spark up some more showers and storms starting early evening far northwest and working its way ever so slowly through the state through the overnight. And of course, that's tomorrow night. It gets cold behind it, and it could flip to a few flurries flying around Lake Superior by early Friday morning before the system finally leaves us alone. So what it's going to do with our temperatures tomorrow is drop us down to the low 50s to low 60s, so slightly cooler. And then we are going to be even worse on Friday, mid 40s to only near 50 degrees for high temperatures. It'll be a cool and breezy end to the week, but then a high pressure system moves in and it brightens the weekend. We are all dry. We're going to be in the 60s on Saturday and nearly 70s on Sunday.
See, that's going to make so many people happy. And I believe the fishing opener is this weekend.
Yes,
so the governor's fishing opener is happening up by Rice Lake. And yeah, it's going to make a lot of folks happy. I know I did still see on social media yesterday or the day before, somebody in the UP posing next to the how much snow is still left there, especially on snowmobile trails where it was compacted.
Ooh,
and so
yeah.
there's still a lot of snow cover left in other places. I know we've had years where the fishing opener was practically delayed because there was still ice on some of the lakes.
Oh,
so,
my goodness.
So
yeah,
despite
I guess we're doing pretty good this year then.
Yeah, despite the cooler temps that I continue to grouse about because apparently that's what bitter old men do. But it has been nice. We don't have ice on all the lakes up north.
Right.
So that part is good. Shiju notes on YouTube. Another good reason to live in Wisconsin, a decent water table.
Agreed.
Nice and fresh and continually replenished because of forecasts like that one. Brittany, thank you so much. Good to see you.
You're welcome.
Have
You
a
too.
wonderful day. A reminder that if you missed anything we did in the last 2 hours here across the Civic Media Radio Network, you can head over to the Civic Media website. That, of course, is civicmedia.us. And when you go over there, you can learn all about the shows, all about the stations, especially with that whole new lineup. Now, this show going for 3 hours, getting a new name, as you can see up there in the corner on social media. You've got Jane and Greg from 9 to 11 now. Tom Hartman at 11. Todd Alba at his new time, 2 to 4. Maggie Dawn from 4 to 6. Nightlight with Pete Schwaba coming up at 6 o'clock this evening. So learn all about what stations have what shows over at the Civic Media website. And, of course, over what we're doing at Up North News. That site is upnorthnewswi.com. You can read about the stories that we're posting there all throughout the day. Also sign up for our newsletters, multiple as well. And you can reach the show here, of course, at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4845. 888-848-9222. And it's not like we haven't provided a lot of fodder, either for texts or internet comments or phone calls. We have covered, just looking at my notes here, we've covered bubble tea. We've covered oatmeal cookies, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class. Sean Duffy saying we need to stop air traffic controllers from retiring, and more people need to be out there making babies like Donald Trump wants you to do. Eric Genrich and Dan Schaefer about what Democrats need to do differently in 2026. And lead paint is still a thing in Milwaukee schools. When is the legislature going to take that seriously? And yet to come, we're going to be talking about power lines, power transmission lines, the great big ones, and how there is legislation out there that would change who gets priority when it comes to building lines in the future. And so Melissa Baldauff will be talking to us all about that in just a little bit over 20 minutes here as part of our climate check. And we'll check in on some other state political matters as well, all here on the program. Then tomorrow, usually on Thursdays at 7:30, we try to talk to a couple of legislators to find out what's happening under the big top in Madison. And so I've called on a couple of Chippewa Valley friends for tomorrow. So we will have State Senator Jeff Smith and Representative Jody Emerson will be joining me at 7:30 tomorrow to talk about things. Among the things we're likely to talk about would be something that's not necessarily in the legislature's avenue, although they're going to have to make up the difference at times with all of these cuts that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have been throwing out there. The most recent, again, look, when you think about, the people who are wasting our federal dollars, all the waste and the fraud and abuse. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Those veterans, right? What a waste, huh? Here's the latest one. AmeriCorps. Young people doing service projects to serve their community. Well, in the Chippewa Valley area, there is a facility called Beaver Creek Reserve. Does a lot of good things, but they were notified yesterday that their grant through AmeriCorps, the Community Corps and Recovery Corps programs have been terminated. It was something that took place immediately last Friday. The letter that they got from the federal government said, it has been determined that our awards no longer support governmental agency priorities. You must immediately cease all member and host site activities. This is a final agency action and is not appealable. The message went on to say that all members must turn in their host site equipment and return home. Now, Beaver Creek Reserve is one of 5 different AmeriCorps host sites in the Chippewa Valley. To get this notification, according to a write-up over at the WEAU TV13 website, the Chippewa Valley Museum and Triple Play membership partner of Beaver Creek Reserve also was notified. They helped recruit and train new volunteers. The Girl Scouts of Northwestern Great Lakes lost 7 AmeriCorps members, 2 who serve in Eau Claire. Beaver Creek Reserve had partnered with the AmeriCorps program since 2015. And currently hosts 6 full-time AmeriCorps Community Corps members, 4 environmental educators, 1 volunteer coordinator, 1 avian field technician. They accounted for 33% of the organization's staff. The host sites paid $6,000 for each full-time AmeriCorps member. Wow. I mean, if that isn't just a $6,000. Do you know what that pays for in terms of billionaire tax cuts? Anyway, Beaver Creek Reserve has some 13,000 walk-in visitors annually. They sponsor 33 summer camps, 40 spring field trips, 10 summer field trips. There's 65 different educational programs. There's a native plant sale, a butterfly house. These are all things that, again, strengthen a community, provide a sense of service, help preserve some of the natural resources in an area. And those were decisions that were made at the local level and at the federal government level to say these are things worthy of expending resources on. Shiju writes, I'm so sad about Beaver Creek. I just went there last Saturday to celebrate Earth Day week. But again, just one more of the many things that in Donald Trump's first 100 days are being slashed and burned and going by the wayside. In our first hour, we played a cut from Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation. Sam, I don't know if you still have that. You probably don't have it there in your booth, so I'll just tell folks about it. But he was on Fox News, and he was whining about having to be part of a day of delays at the airport in Newark, one of the 3 airports that serves the New York City area. The radars went down. There's a shortage of air traffic controllers. And Sean Duffy went on Fox News or Fox and Friends to talk about it and to say, well, if we could just get more of these air traffic controllers, if we could get the union to allow them to work longer than their current retirement. For people who have some of the most stressful jobs out there, and for federal government employees who have been told for these past 100 days that they're useless, that they're worthless, they ought to quit, they ought to self-terminate and save the taxpayers money. Again, it's not going to save the taxpayers any money. This is an administration that is so anti-immigrant in any way, shape, or form, people that don't look like them and think exactly like them, that they would rather tell some people who are stressed and near retirement to stay on the job longer and tell people to make more babies rather than acknowledge how overdue we are for real immigration reform in this country. And somebody put up a quote that I wanted to share from former President Ronald Reagan that he made late in his presidency about the power of this nation being built as a nation of immigrants. Ronald Reagan said, "You can go live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people and our strength from every country and every corner of the world. And by doing so, we continuously review and renew and enrich our nation. While other countries cling to the stale past, here in America, we breathe life into dreams. We create the future, and the world follows us into tomorrow. Thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we are a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation. If we ever closed the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost." To which Donald Trump would look at that entire quote and say, "Mission accomplished. We're closing the door to new Americans, and we are surrendering our leadership in the world." And for that, all Sean Duffy has for an answer is work past your retirement date and make more babies. They did. Why can't you? Thanks for spending part of your mornings with us live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Melissa Baldauff is standing by, joins us for Climate Check, and we'll talk some other Wisconsin political news coming up in just about under 15 minutes or so here across the Civic Media Radio Network. First off in sports, the Brewers beat the Chicago White Sox Tuesday night 7-2. Isaac Collins hit his first career home run for Milwaukee, and Freddie Peralta pitched 6 innings of 2-run ball. The Brewers are still on their longest road trip of the season, 10 games. They are now at 3-5. So if they can win tonight and again tomorrow afternoon against the White Sox, they will at least split that road trip. They're doing pretty well against the White Sox. They've won 11 of the last 12 games against the Southsiders, and they will do it again this evening. 6:05 the pregame begins on stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. And even though the Brewers come home on Friday, it's almost as if the road trip continues because it'll be against the Cubs for a weekend series, and plenty of Northsiders will be coming up for that. And then there's the Milwaukee Bucks. They were up by 7 points with 45 seconds left in regulation. And I turned the TV off, figuring, okay, instead of being eliminated, they will live to fight another day. So imagine my surprise to look at my phone a little bit later and see that they were in the late stages of overtime. So I put the TV back on and watched the Bucks commit 2 turnovers in the final 29 seconds, and the Pacers go past the Bucks 119-118 in overtime for a 4-1 series victory. And again, the Bucks being eliminated in the first round, and again by the Indiana Pacers. We talked to Dan Schaefer, as you know, just about this time yesterday, and I said, well, if that happens, we're going to hear it. We're going to hear it again. It's time to trade Giannis. It's time to trade Giannis. Dan Schaefer was like, absolutely not. Does not want to hear any of that kind of talk at all. Although it is easy to see that the window might be closing on the Bucks' opportunity to advance, further into the playoffs than they have these past couple of years. It was just a rough one, but the season is now over for the Bucks. A couple of notes to follow along on the whole notion of Trump marking 100 days. Certainly there are comments out there about what I just had to say about immigration, saying, this is all about legal immigration. And of course you don't want illegal immigration. I addressed that. I said, we need immigration reform. There has never been in our lifetimes a more important time to be pro-immigration than right now. This nation should be so amazingly pro-immigration, which means being pro-immigration reform. And last year, there was a bipartisan deal to get that done. There were so many Republicans in Congress that knew we had to get this done. And Donald Trump said, nope, that doesn't help my campaign for president. I've got to run with all this race baiting. You've got to kill this bipartisan bill. And they did. And so it would be easy to say, okay, Trump got in. That's what he wanted. He wanted in. So now pass the bipartisan bill and let him get the victory. Do you see this Congress rushing to overhaul immigration and make it easier to have legal immigration in this country? You do not. Because a bitter old race baiter once is going to be won over and over again. He does not want that. He does not want immigration reformed and overhauled. He would rather have the worker shortages here, as long as he can continue to make the political points and do other things like cut, Meals on Wheels. We talked about AmeriCorps in the last segment. Now there's a tiny division responsible in Health and Human Services that is responsible for overseeing services for people with disabilities and older Americans. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is dismantling it as part of all these HHS cuts. Meals on Wheels, kids. The tariffs, they continue to extract a terrible toll from Wisconsin, from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel from early this morning. An Economowoc manufacturer has been pulled into the deepening U.S. trade war with China. Century Equipment Corporation, which makes sampling and process equipment for various industries, says it just lost a $300,000 order because the Chinese customer probably wouldn't have received the product ahead of a steep tariff threatened by China on American-made goods. The story by Rick Barrett goes on to say, Century had rushed to complete the work but was unable to get the products on a flight to China soon enough because of air freight transportation issues. The logistics were out of control, said Rich Gaffney, Century's vice president of operations, putting the employee-owned company in a tough spot. About 25% of Century sales are outside of the U.S. in more than 50 countries. And this is only going to go on and on with Wisconsin companies. We noted earlier a study that had been done showing that of all the industries that are caught up in this trade war, it's not just agriculture, manufacturing, timber, all these other things, that Wisconsin is at the top of the list. The only state that has double digits, 10% of the Wisconsin workforce works in industries that are going to be negatively impacted by Trump's trade war. Wisconsin is quite literally on the front lines, literally going to be, no, not literally, figuratively going to be hit first and hardest by Trump's wrecking ball of a trade war. And all kinds of folks who either supported Trump or don't care are going to get caught up in this and go, why? Why? We were doing our thing. I was delivering Meals on Wheels. I was, helping folks at the Beaver Creek Reserve. And suddenly all these cuts, why? Again, it's not going in your pockets. It's to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. That's exactly how this works. And finally, to close on immigration, there is a comment that says you can't have a country with multiple cultures. Well, that sounds about white. Melissa Baldauff is going to join us, and we'll do Climate Check and talk more Wisconsin politics live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. How is Melissa?
Good. How about you?
Good. Having fun with all the little race baiters out there. God forbid we have multiple cultures here. I never want to be that sad and miserable.
I know. And these are the people that I just would like for some of these people
to self-deport. Honestly,
well,
just
but to
leave.
do a 23andMe and find out what their heritage is, and also for some of these people who identify as men to find out that their chromosomes might not be what they think they are.
Yeah,
would just be great.
Oh, it would. Yeah, it would make me happy too. Let's see here. We got this. Where else? Where did I put the ones that you sent me? Do you do the spring allergies too?
Yes.
Let's see. Where did I? Oh, there it is. Okay, it's right there. And Milwaukee air quality remains among the worst in the nation. Oh. Boy, we've been talking about that for a long time. Let's see. Let's put that up there. Whoops. Let's put it up here. I guess we'll put that there. Okay, so it'll be about the time that I finally figure out how to keep all my notes neat and clean on my screen that it'll be time to retire. Let's see. Okay. All right, we've got.
There's some always rich targets, but also we could touch on Pete Hegseth saying how the Pentagon will no longer do climate change crap.
Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, we'll be back in 1 minute. You know, if you can stick around for 1 more hour, 1 hour from now, Dr. Kristen Lyerly will be part of Matt and Air on Air with Jane and Greg. So you might want to stick around for that. And a couple of other great guests coming up on Matt and Air on Air. And then I'll be showing up on Todd Alba's show coming up at 2 o'clock here on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, let's bring in Melissa Baldauff, a little climate check, a little Wisconsin political chatter. How's Melissa today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How about you?
Doing okay as well, because we're going to pick up where we left off last week. We didn't have enough time to really get into the specifics of a debate at the state capitol on a bill that doesn't really cut neatly across party lines. This one's all about, competition when it comes to new transmission lines here. And it's really got Republicans divided more than Democrats. But to boil it down to its essence, Melissa, it really is about whether state utility companies would get first dibs, if you will, when it's time for those new high voltage transmission lines. And the thing of it is, when we talk about climate, Melissa, transmission lines are their own kind of side issue in that, we're talking about whether it's oil and gas and coal versus, wind and solar. But even if it's wind and solar, you still need transmission lines to get that power someplace. And so it's something everybody needs to pay attention to, but it's almost refreshing that we have something here that isn't exactly just a Democrat versus Republican kind of bill.
Yeah, look, it's always good to have a debate, and it's good to have conversation and get to the best version of any bill that's going to pass, and whether or not, this is going to be something that does pass or not. And if it's something that the governor will support or not, it's always good to have a conversation in the public and get to the best version of something. So, we want to have that transparency, that sunshine on the process, and make sure that the public is aware of what the intention is and how we're going to get there. Because far too often, what we have is these bills that are put together, in private by the Republican leadership to serve what their special interest friends would like to see, and that's what gets passed. And there's no public input. There's nothing that is serving the will of the people. So the fact that there's even a conversation here is positive. It doesn't mean that we're going to get to what's going to be the best for the climate, what's going to be the best for the public. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but it's still a positive thing that there's a conversation here.
Yeah, and in this case, this version of the what's called the Wisconsin Energy Reform Act says that basically Wisconsin utilities would have a privileged position when it comes to new transmission line projects under the guise of, well, they're already involved in some of these and they would understand, and the benefit it's kind of like Buy American type stuff. But you also have people saying, well, that would actually diminish competition, and so ratepayers would end up paying more. And again, I'm not studied enough in it to know that one is necessarily better than the other. It's just kind of a refreshing change of position. It reminded me very much of my first year in the legislature, 2007, when we did the smoking ban. Now, there is near universal agreement that the smoking ban has been a positive for Wisconsin. Our clothes don't reek of ashtrays when we get home from, bars and restaurants. People are healthier. The air is cleaner. But Melissa, you and I both know in 2007, it did not cut across party lines. And that was a spirited debate, to say the least.
Well, I'm sure it was. So that actually predates my arrival in Wisconsin.
Let me tell you stories. The main thing on this one is that it really was more of an urban rural, in that anybody who had mostly cities in their district, they wanted the smoking ban, and people in predominantly rural districts did not want it. They thought that was an infringement. And I had a district that was the north side, the northern half of Eau Claire, and then a whole lot of rural area. So, I was right in the middle. I was one of the deciding votes on not whether the ban would pass or not, but the folks in rural districts and bar owners especially thought, well, this is going to put us out of business. They wanted a phase-in period. So the original bill was like 30 days. They wanted like a 1-year phase-in. I suggested, I believe it was either 90 days or 6 months, I forget now. And boy, was I vilified by the people who wanted the smoking ban immediately. They're like, oh, you're standing up with big tobacco. I'm like, no, we're still going to do this. We're looking for a compromise here. And it was very frustrating to have, there were so many Democrats mad at me because I wasn't putting the smoking ban in immediately. Well, in hindsight, of course, it doesn't matter at all, not right now. Nobody remembers that debate. I don't even remember what my amendment said. I just remember at the time going, wow, we still do have debate sometimes on bills that don't cut neatly across party lines. And, here's one of them. So, it made for a great story, if nothing else. Right, Melissa?
Absolutely. I'm just glad by the time I did move here in 2010, there was no smoking in bars.
Yeah. Well, let's move then to a different matter of air quality and getting back to climate concerns. News story in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Maya Pandy, I believe, is the reporter's name. Headline: Milwaukee's air quality remains among the worst in the nation, according to a new report by the American Lung Association. Milwaukee, out of 228 cities tested for ozone pollution, ranked 26th worst, right behind Sheboygan as 24th worst. Obviously, a lot of that is related to industry, a lot of it from northern Illinois and Indiana, as well as southeast Wisconsin, and unfavorable, environmental conditions in terms of how the wind blows and everything. But Melissa, this has been a perpetual issue, air quality in southeast Wisconsin.
It absolutely has, and this is something we've talked about before, and had guests on. We know that folks down in Beloit, some citizen scientists have studied this issue, but this is something that one of the, I think, most notable pieces to me from this report is that in the Milwaukee, Racine, and Waukesha area, it's getting worse. We know that it's been bad, but across the Milwaukee, Racine, Waukesha area, it is getting worse. And knowing that air quality is worsening is really dangerous. So what it noted is that between 21 and 2023, the area averaged 9.5 days a year of unhealthy ozone levels, compared to only 6.7 days in the previous year's report. And Racine County ranked the worst in that area for the ground level ozone pollution. So this is, really a big problem that we know is continuing to get worse on some of these factors, and that's a big problem. The causes, there are many, like you mentioned, some of the producer pollution, also the extreme heat, drought, wildfires are some of the main drivers as well, according to the American Lung Association, that are driving the worsening air quality nationwide. We know, I think folks probably remember a couple summers back, wildfires in Canada caused some really significant air quality issues in Wisconsin and across a lot of the country. So we know that a lot is going on to cause this, and it's really a problem that's worsening.
And it's something that, as we've talked about it over the years, again, when people said want to debate air quality and some wanted it to be a state by state decision, obviously it can't be. We can't put up a wall between Illinois and Gary, Indiana, and other places. We can't put up a wall with Canada and its wildfires, and so this needs to be a national effort. And we're only helping ourselves in the process. Again, we have people saying, well, China's not doing their part, so why should we punish ourselves? Well, again, if we're always going to race to the bottom, then we're going to have air quality as bad as it was in the late 1960s and early 70s. And while things are better than they were, the article does note that we're talking about something like 900,000 people are at higher risk in the Milwaukee area of the more serious health impacts that come with dirty air. This is not a pick on manufacturing story. This is a public health issue that just raises the point we can always be doing better when it comes to air quality. You can talk deregulation all day long, but you can also talk about doing a better job of not polluting from the stuff that you're making.
Absolutely. And that's why it's such a concern what the Trump administration is doing at the EPA. The EPA was established under Richard Nixon in 1970. So for more than 50 years, we've had bipartisan support for the EPA, and, at times, of course, it's been, stronger and, had more teeth than at other times. But generally speaking, there's been bipartisan support for the EPA's, kind of dual mission of protecting our air and water quality and enforcing regulations to reduce emissions and, reduce pollution. And now we have a new mission at the EPA, which is to, drive down the cost of cars and make small businesses more profitable, right? And we know that they are not going to take steps to hold polluters accountable and address air quality and water quality. And, not just that they maybe won't have as strong of regulations as we would want to see. It seems that they don't really have any concern about enforcing regulations and really want to give polluters just kind of carte blanche to do whatever they want.
Well, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's a pro-pollution agenda that they have, and it was exacerbated Monday when nearly 400 scientists across the country were informed by the Trump administration that their services were no longer needed to write a major report on climate change for the federal government. It's known as the National Climate Assessment. It's done every 4 years. It was mandated under the Global Change Research Act of 1990. And instead, an email went out to all of these scientists and said, thank you for your participation. We are now releasing all current assessment participants from their role, because that's where we are nowadays, Melissa. We will look for happier news down the road here, but we always appreciate the climate updates so people know exactly what this administration is doing. Melissa Baldauff, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Melissa, very much. Now, again, coming up tomorrow, we will talk to State Senator Jeff Smith and State Representative Jody Emerson as part of our weekly legislative update. I'm Pat Kreitlow, reminding you that, again, it's all about every one of these words in our national promise: liberty and justice for all. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. How's James doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, thank you. Got your list here. Anything else to put on it?
Nothing major.
Okay,
Some
good.
interesting things, but not something that's going to make a huge difference anywhere.
Yeah. You didn't see any of the, go look at the storm damage yesterday?
I didn't take a look. Brittany was doing such a good job covering it all.
Yeah,
on
she
her own.
was. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
did see some pictures, and luckily it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We'll get going in 2 minutes. I'll see you in a bit.
Cool.
We've got Brewers baseball across the Civic Media Radio Network. Pregame at 6:06. Brewers versus the White Sox. You can catch it in Richland Center on WRCE, or in the Oshkosh area on WISS, in Racine, Kenosha on WRJN. Over in Park Falls, WCQM, and of course the new Brewers affiliate up north, WBZH in Hayward for Brewers this evening and again tomorrow afternoon. Let's welcome in James Kelly, civic media reporter from the Chippewa Valley in beautiful downtown Chippewa Falls, above the old Kinsella Drug there on Grand and Bridge Street. James, how are you?
Oh, I don't think that's what's below me anymore.
No, Kinsella Drug hasn't been there for a while. It's something our old timers say. I think it's an Edward Jones office now that's down there. But you tell anybody basically 40 and up, Kinsella Drug. Oh yeah, I know where that is. Even though it's been gone for a very long time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Hey, we were just talking about air quality in the Milwaukee area and how bad it is, and climate issues. Meanwhile, you have legislators from the Chippewa Valley who have introduced something called the Climate Accountability Act. And they've noted this and so many other things as reasons why there really ought to be a change in state law that makes sure that we take these kind of climate and air quality issues more seriously. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so the Climate Accountability Act, which was just recently introduced, both Jeff Smith and Jody Emerson are signed on to it, as is Christian Phelps, who was there at the press conference on Friday, as was Jeff Smith. It basically just calls for the legislature to come up with a plan. For 2030, they want to cut carbon emissions by 52%. By 2050, achieve carbon neutral emissions. It's a lofty goal, but this specific act doesn't actually call for any policy changes, anything to be done. It just calls for developing a plan to get there.
Well, and look, that is something. As opposed to the pro-pollution stance that others might have. And, they take note. I mean, right here in the Chippewa Valley, if you're going along 29 in Lake Hallie, you're seeing a small solar farm that's out there. You note in your story that XL Energy is planning a 5,000-acre solar field, in the near future. And there are other projects that are going on even as we speak.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things that Representative Phelps mentioned on Friday was that it's not really a partisan issue in his eyes. People that he's talked to when he was campaigning, whether they're Democrats, self-identifying as Republicans, all of them care about conservation. They all care about the environment. I think that's one of the really interesting things about my move to Wisconsin, was to find out, this isn't just a one-side issue. Every single person here cares so much about conservation and puts so much effort into protecting the state's natural resources.
Well, again, there are those who, they do say we should talk a good game. And then there's other folks that do want to see some more concrete steps that are taken. They care about the air quality and the resources. And it's not just about, say, manufacturing industries. The same could be said for agricultural industries. We are seeing a growing number of factory farms, otherwise known as CAFOs, and my stance has always been clear that if you're going to have what's a so-called factory farm, well, then you better regulate it like a factory, no different than anything else. This is not simply a freedom to farm thing, shall we say. And in Pierce County, there are people very unhappy that the DNR has issued a permit for one of these CAFOs.
Yeah, the CAFO is Ridge Breeze Dairy. They're looking to expand their dairy operation by 5,000 cows, give or take. So right now they only have about 1,700. So that would be around 6,500 cows in total. Earlier this year, the DNR granted a modified permit to allow them to do this, but that permit does not include forcing the company to monitor the groundwater in the area. So residents are concerned about manure spread. They're concerned about nitrates in the water. And now they've filed to challenge the modified permit.
This, again, what did I just say? You gotta be as on top of this as you would a factory, and which includes all of the proper monitoring that has to be done. And we went through this right here in Chippewa Falls when they were building a sand plant here, right along the railroad tracks north of town. It's no longer a sand plant. It turned out to be a fad, essentially. But during the time that it was being planned, there was all this talk about, the potential for silica dust and causing lung issues. And I was always amazed that there were people against air monitoring and having as many air monitors around as possible. So surely folks understand that in the case of this CAFO, monitoring is a good thing for your health. And if you don't want it, that's kind of a red flag that maybe you're looking for shortcuts when it comes to our groundwater quality and things like that. Joint Finance Committee was in Hayward, and in there, I'm sure came up the notion of all of the healthcare funding that Republicans in the legislature have been sitting on.
Yeah, so that $15 million that was approved last year after line item vetoes from Governor Tony Evers to make it a little bit more flexible has just been kind of sitting there for the last year. We have had plans for new hospitals crop up. Even St. Joseph's could be opened as late as the end of this year or as early as the end of this year. But there's still a lot of help that needs to happen now and could have happened over the last year where that $15 million could have gone a long way. The problem is, if we get through the state budget process in June, that money just goes back into the general fund. It's just gone forever.
Yeah. So, I mean, time is a wasting, and it would be great if State Senator Jesse James and others could stop being Republican apologists and actually work for their constituents in the Chippewa Valley who desperately need to improve our healthcare situation here. Final note, of course, is that the governor's fishing opener is taking place this weekend in the Rice Lake area. Are you venturing up?
I am not going to be venturing up. While I did grow up along the water.
Okay.
Yeah, I did grow up along the water. I fished a little bit when I was a kid, but I was never like super into it. Let's wake up at 5 a.m., hop out in the boat, see if we can catch anything big. I just, a little bit of dock fishing.
All right. Well, we'll just get you up here on Lake Wissota sometime soon and see how you do, without the pressure of the governor watching you, shall we say. James Kelly, Civic Media Reporter in beautiful Chippewa Waffles. Thank you, Jim, very much.
Thanks, Pat.
James Kelly, everybody, and thank you for being here today. I'm Pat Kreitlow, founding editor of Up North News. It's the Wisconsin home for Courier Newsroom, a pro-democracy news network building a more informed, engaged, and representative America. Follow everything that we do over at upnorthnewswi.com. Have a great Wednesday. We'll see you here tomorrow morning, up north, 6 a.m. tomorrow. All righty, Sam. Everything good?